all records of human civilization disappeared without a trace. Whether it was history, technology, or art, from books to digital data, all the knowledge and records accumulated by the human race disappeared overnight. When, for reasons unknown to anyone, society was thrown into chaos and was on the verge of collapse, a savior appeared to humanity, and it is none other than the so-called Zeus system. However, by whom and when it was created is still a mystery. And the Zeus system, in turn, created the virtual game Olympus. Olympus cannot be called a simple game, because thanks to the available abilities, the Zeus system is able to materialize items from the game into reality. As a result, Olympus becomes a means of sustaining modern civilization, and soon the line between reality and Olympus was blurred. It's been about 200 years since the world became a place where any game item can be materialized in reality. As a consequence, the modern era has evolved into a prosperous civilization. However, one of the guys asked the pathetic little rat where he was going. Prosperous civilization was not so good. The so-called spoon class theory. Because of the rankings, the division of spheres of influence, and the manifestation of items in the game of Olympus, there has been a polarization of wealth, and the class system, which in fact was not one, became ubiquitous in society once again. The rich became richer, the poor poorer. A world where it's impossible for heroes to be born in the gutter. A world where it's hard for a clay spoon to turn into a golden spoon. He, Hanju, being one of the many clay spoons. But there doesn't seem to be a law saying that low status must necessarily die. Some crazy old man who kidnapped him when the kid was less than 10 years old said he wasn't born with a freaking clay spoon in his mouth, but a gap in his levels and abilities. So for the last 20 years, all the guy has done is go through a hell of a lot of training in the training area. He was told he had to become totally evil or something. And so, he, along with a saint, a murderer, and the queen of the dead, decided to become the ultimate evil. After the Olympus Revolution, humanity began to be educated in virtual reality, with students upgrading their level in the Olympus Academy. And after graduation, they would get a job at the Olympus Alliance and make money. That kind of future was the norm, so the boy decided to follow that path. But trouble crept up on him. The man thought he had finally found him. He grabbed the boy and shouted that he had found the gifted child after all. He couldn't believe he could find a child with such talent. He shouted what a blessing it was, for it would make him the strongest man in the world. The boy found himself kidnapped by a crazy old man. The wacky old man was the personification of power, so the boy was not against becoming his apprentice to some extent. Thus began his difficult, no, more precisely to say agonizing period of correction, a time of so-called hellish training. The kid asked the mentor if he knew that the rumored best player was now rumored to be level 89. The mentor asked the guy how he could call someone he was below level 99 the best. The guy turned 16. He had spent 10 years in amazing training. Arthur replied that, after all, he was officially number 1. There's no one higher than him. Calling the guy a scumbag, the mentor asked wants to say he doesn't take the word of his strongest mentor. He must not believe only what he sees. It is necessary that there are many things that are not openly shown in the world. The guy thought that this crazy psychopath had started his madman's ramblings again. The mentor told his apprentice Arthur to trust him. He is the one who will make the boy the strongest man in the world. Arthur told his mentor that he didn't come from a wealthy family and didn't have any items in his arsenal. Is it even possible to become the strongest in the world? The mentor yelled for the boy to shut his mouth. Only the level and characteristics mattered, and then he said it wouldn't work. Let him keep standing like that for another 3 hours. Can a guy really trust an old man like that? His agony continued day after day. Nevertheless, time went on, but without stopping. Spring replaced winter, fall replaced summer, and in an endless succession of changing seasons, 20 years filled with a hell of a lot of training flew by. The mentor said that until today the guy had done an excellent job on himself. He had taught him everything he knew, and now the mentor could die without any regrets. The boy thought mentally that he should die sooner rather than later. I mean, it's been really hard on him. In reality, he was treated like a job seeker who hadn't gotten a job in 1,000 years. And in the Olympus game, the guy was forced to devote all his time to endless training. Simply put, all he did was get beaten up for the entire 20 years. Honestly, he has no idea why he continued to put up with all this, even though he could have just gone ahead and deleted his character. But in the end, the boy was able to endure the ordeal. When he turned to his mentor, Arthur said that he was, in fact, none other than his son. Because he had a mentor who the guy considered his second father, he was able to work hard for those 20 years. However, he is still unsure if he can survive in such a harsh and cruel world without his protection. Then he said that's why he still needed his guidance. The mentor replied that his student was wrong. Although the boy was weaker than him, his strength had increased significantly. The guy thought no, it didn't matter right now. Just have him give him a quest already finally. He had heard that such players were left with a quest when they died. The boy begged his mentor to keep teaching him. He can, after all, give him at least one single quest before playing the box. The mentor replied that he understood his feelings perfectly well. Arthur thought that this was it. He could feel it. The quest was already in his pocket. The man replied, let him never forget. He is his only student, the only successor to his martial art. The guy thought that fucking idea of succession got him locked in there for 20 years. Handing him a map, the mentor told the boy to find this place. His future is there. Arthur immediately thanked his mentor for his generous teachings that are higher than the sky and deeper than the ocean. When the boy got up from his knees, the mentor had already passed away. The boy thought, well, let him rest in peace. After 20 years, he left his mentor and his years of hellish training came to an end. Now the guy is, for once, standing at the line for another start. He thought that finally that hellish life was over. A status window appeared in front of him. Several times he was nearly beaten to death after his failed escape attempts. Looking at his great results of absurd training, the guy didn't understand why his luck had gone in the negative. Arthur has waited 20 long years for this moment. Now he can say goodbye to the special zone line. The system said that the guy was now leaving the line special zone. Suddenly, a voice said that an error had been detected. The system detected an abnormal upgrade. The guy didn't go through the upgrade procedure. The system, by the power of Zeus, will reset all normal levels. The guy didn't understand what she just said. After a while, the guy was just lying on the floor. Arthur said, his whole 20 years. His status window appeared in front of him. The boy wondered if this was a dream. He wasn't dreaming the whole thing. Arthur asked what it was. The guy didn't understand why the characteristics remained the same. Had the system only reset the levels? He thought obviously the same thing. There is a penalty depending on the downgrade. There is usually a ban on the use of some skill. Even the most basic of his skills requires at least level 40 to use. The guy can't use any of his attack skills, and wearing level-restricted items is also impossible. The guy asked, and why the hell does he need all the restrictions? Because in other words, the first level is the easiest state to climb up. He can level up quickly and invest in characteristics again, destroying monsters with his saved characteristics. In fact, his terms are extremely favorable. Now, the job seeker's boyfriend's life is over. From that day on, life on Olympus was just beginning. The first thing he decided to do was to go to the newcomer's starting town. Though 6 years later than the others, he will finally start to live his own real life from this moment. The system said the boy had arrived in Urkus. Arthur thought that he had missed this square for 20 years. He missed further those street vendors and that peaceful atmosphere. The guy's really back. Arthur decided to go straight to the hunting grounds. It was the western gate of Urkus. When the guards stopped him, they asked him what level he was at. Arthur answered that he was level 1. The man said it looks like he's got the wrong gate. He's going to the east gate. And where they are, it's the west gate. He told the guy that for a first level this gate is dangerous. Arthur asked him if it was a restricted area. Guards said no, but he strongly advises against it. The guy can't even defeat a toothy rabbit with level 1 abilities. Better let him come as he practiced on the eastern. Walking a little farther, Arthur asked what if he could do it. The man thought without even finishing listening. Is it because players are revived after death? Still, it's reckless. A quest called Guardian Alert has been activated. It's scary to watch the player with suspicion because it assumes the player will die. Arthur said he must be very worried. Then he asked me to show him the quest he had received. Looking at the guy waving at him, the guard thought, what the hell is he doing? He's being attacked by a toothy rabbit. The man started yelling for the guy to turn around. What's he looking at? Let him dodge as best he could. With one blow, Arthur was able to get rid of the predator. After the guy dealt with everyone, the guard yelled that he said he was only level 1. The guy said he did. Arthur asked the guards to keep an eye on the level, right? The guard replied that he found it hard to believe, and then asked what kind of equipment it was, as suddenly, behind his back, the man saw the thug of the western gate, a rabid boar. Arthur answered him that he need not worry. The man shouted that this was a beast of a different level. It was dangerous. Let him get behind it. As soon as the beast began to attack, the guy landed a powerful blow. Suddenly, the system said that his level had been raised. The guard thought he was a rookie. The man must be asleep. Then he called the guy a crazy asshole. Arthur replied that he would have to agree. The quest to alarm Guardian was completed. He received 30,000 gold as a net reward. The guy will think that even so, is investing in characteristics not going to work out? After which Arthur thought that first of all, actually the characteristics are the same as the 99th level. That wasn't his main problem right now. The guy figured he'd deal with that later. For now, he needed to go to a high-level hunting ground. At the time, the guy thought that whether his life would be completely straight or not, the reward for 20 years of hard work is finally here, and it seemed to him that everything would be smooth in the future too. A few days later, the guy wondered what the hell was that all about. He had been involved in various incidents over the past few days and was now full of misunderstandings. The players attacking him appeared out of nowhere. They didn't mistake the guy for a wanted criminal. Arthur didn't understand what he was in for. How could one be confused with someone who only looked a little like him? He realized it wouldn't have happened without a reason. No matter how much he thought about it, the reason must be his luck, equal to -99. Under the influence of luck -99, the players decided he was a wanted criminal and relentlessly attacked him to kill him. After the hardest blow, the guy thought he had a reflex. He had to fight not to die, the most badass chow site of all the chow sites. With full HAL mode, Arthur took all kinds of penalties. After that, not only non-player characters, but also the players themselves began to harass him. Arthur thought there could only be one reason why they were after him. According to the hero system, the opposite of the house system, one can become a hero by killing a Heasite. Of course, the guy has become a full HAL target for players who want to be heroes. They were yelling at him that it was a dead end. Tell him to give up. The guy thought that surrendering would be the easiest thing to do. For the sake of survival, he ended up with nothing left to do but kill all the users. Arthur thought he was pointing to the bottom, so they wouldn't find him. And yet his level was rising. So it's been 2 weeks. The guy's gonna think normal players are incorrigible. He'll have to hide for at least a year to stop that damn full HAL. Anyway, since he's become a bad guy, he'll become at least the kind of bad guy who eats well and lives well. He decided to stop being a hero. Arthur has 99th level characteristics, so he doesn't have to worry about eating well and living well. However, when you think about it, it's so strange. After 20 years of hellish torture, he thought he was going to get better, but he was forcibly put into full chow site mode. Maybe this was all Zeus' plan. The guy thought maybe there was some kind of special scenario. What's even behind this? A new pain that came as soon as he got rid of the suffering of the past. The boy wondered about that whole situation. The answer to his question came to him sooner than he expected. The man said that they, the old men, no longer regret anything, even if they had to die now. They were able to see the successor of the Absolute. They shouted, "Long live the Absolute Heavenly Devil." It was an SSS class quest, among the quests seen by mankind playing on Olympus over the last 200 years. This one is top-notch. In 200 years of history, it has appeared only 3 times. Each time such a quest appeared, there was a cataclysm on Olympus. Training, which has been his personal hell for the last 20 years, full now, which he became as soon as he got out of lineman. And these non-player characters lay before him as if they were just waiting. Anyway, Zeus has been preparing him for this for 20 years. The guy feels like he's becoming part of a bigger story, an era of chaos that lasted 7,000 years. After a long war, a peace treaty divided the world into 3 powers. Among them, the most famous, the power of Centennia, had an absolute ruler and his name was Garcia Mentres. This absolute had 14 wives. Of those 14 wives, the 7th wife gave birth to an Aractus. The Aractus in some region produced offspring from someone, and that person in turn gave life to another. Arthur didn't understand why the pedigree was so long. Did he think it would be foolish of him to skip reading the contents? A man named Schulter, who was the strongest at the time, seized the hegemony. He had inherited the devil's blood and was far more cruel than anyone else. When the rebellion broke out, Schulter was defeated and trapped, but he was only crippled and life continued to hothouse in his body. After that, Schulter settled in the cave and regained his former power. The boy wondered if his mentor was a descendant of that Schulter, or one of his kind. Arthur read that he was temporarily recognized by the Absolute, but it was not yet a perfect recognition. 7 of the 12 elders want the return of the Absolute, but the other 5 are against it. The guy wondered if he got full credit. Would he be in a difficult situation? If the matter took a serious turn, it could turn into a character deletion or worse. He's in enough trouble as it is, but it looks like the system has decided to finish him off. It turns out, regardless of the means and methods, the goal, by all means, must be achieved. Turning to the men, the guy asked means they are the elders of the heavenly devil? Bowing, the elder replied that it was so. They were in awe that he recognized them. The boy thought to tell me that he recognized those elders. It had only been a few minutes since he had first heard of the heavenly devil. He replied that those were the words of his mentor. To become the head of the heavenly devil elders and restore the former glory of the heavenly devil on this continent. These seem to be the same 7 people who sympathize with him. The guy says it's time to hit the road. Let them lead him. The elder said they'd cut off the heads of all the insect-like bastards that roamed the area. The boy thought he'd been wondering why it was so quiet all of a sudden. Because of those same elders, the guy's level had been raised. He wondered if the system wanted to say that he was already level 9. According to the national rule, most people enter the academy at the age of 6 to 8 and reach level 20 when they graduate at the age of 20. Looking at the elder, the boy asked what his name was. The man replied that he was Luxo, the first elder. Arthur said that first of all, he needed to clarify something. He said that he was currently under special restrictions. Though he followed his mentor's mantras, right now he has no way to use any of his techniques. His head remembers, but his body can't keep up with the thought. Luxo replied that they had guessed that something like that had happened. The boy said that, nevertheless, they should trust him. He is the Absolute who will rule over them, and gives his word that he will take them to a place where they will always be drowned in sunlight. Hansea told her brother what she heard. This time their alliance won a good quest, but it seems a serial killer named Getrag is running rampant in the Centenia border region. Did the guy ask seriously? Then he thought the sister wasn't referring to him now. Was she? The girl said he uses dual pistols, and he's about level 40. They say only a team of 7 can take him down. If she succeeds, she thinks she can easily get 3 million gold coins worth of incentives from her alliance. The guy said the bounty on Getrag's head is millions of gold coins, but the reward is a measly 3 million. The girl replied that, nevertheless, her union gives quite a lot compared to others. The boy replied that all the hardest work was on them, not on the office rats. Hansea replied that he'd buy meat anyway if he got encouragement. They've hardly eaten it lately, which is probably why he has such severely pronounced bags under his eyes. Her brother thinks it's all about his luck going into deep minus. Thanked her anyway. He needs to log back in. Luxo told the overlords that someone was following him. They still hadn't been able to find out the identity of the Watcher, and then he asked what they should do. Arthur told them not to do anything for the time being. The guy asked if it was his sister by any chance. The system responded that the girl is on another continent. Players on another continent will not receive his message. Suddenly a voice said that he had finally found the ghastly faceless killer. Arthur immediately thought of the paired pistols. Getrag asked this youngster dares to pretend to be him. He is very fearless. So it's time for him to pay with death for his sin. He thought it was lucky that his sister had shared such important information with him earlier. Even if his characteristics were high, that bastard was level 40. He thought about what variables a 30-level difference would create, along with differences in items and equipment. There's no way the guy can lose right now, in the most important race of his life. So, he doesn't have to fight him alone. He immediately called out to Luxo. The elder replied that he had come at the boy's call. Getrag thought, was I even an old man? The lad did not sense his presence. Arthur ordered the elder to kill his enemy. The man replied that he would listen and obey. Come to think of it, it's just the old man and the green boys. He can handle them. Getrag said he was watching. He found time for idle chatter. If they like to talk so much, let them try to attack first. Arthur didn't immediately realize what had happened. What was that? He had heard that Getrag was about level 40. He couldn't even get a good look at Luxo's footsteps. If only the boy could use the spiritual eye skill, then he would be able to read the mana flows. Handing the guy a sack, the elder told the lord to take the head of his enemy. For this, the lad received experience points. Getrag's head. It's the head of a famous serial killer. It's worth 100 million gold coins. The guy thought he'd just let things run their course. He couldn't get a job because he was caught up in full now mode. He had no idea that a non-game character would be so easily in his hands. Arthur told the elders to listen to him. Let them hunt all living things around them without making a fuss. For his glorious return, the guy will follow whatever scenario or quest the system gives him and play the role of ruler diligently. 2 weeks later, looking at the system, the guy realized he was already level 13. Others take years to raise the level, while he climbs upward at an unheard-of rate. The heaven-conquering mind technique requires at least level 40. When a guy reaches it, that's when he'll have his real start. A company that gets items using full-scale rolling and heavenly devil lackeys. If it doesn't work out to get a job, he can just start his own company. Now, the problem for the guy was that he didn't know how he could get rid of the thing. Sitting at his computer, a guy asked where is the best place to sell expensive items? People replied that you should never sell in the real world. Arthur realized that he was drawn into full now mode, so he couldn't use the services of any official establishment in the game. Entering her brother's room, the girl asked what he was doing. The guy replied that she had come just in time. She asked what's wrong? Does he really need pocket money? He replied that it had nothing to do with that. Arthur asked what the girl would do if he got Getrag's head. She said, "What are we even talking about? Even if the head is in his hands, why would he give it to her? He can just sell the head and eat hamburgers for fun." Suddenly he said he'd get the damn head, so he offered to split the proceeds for it 50-50ths. The sister wondered why he suddenly spoke in such a serious tone. What kind of incoherent nonsense is this guy talking? The girl replied that the brother knows what Getrag's supposed level is, right? Even if the brother dies and rises from the dead, he won't succeed. She'd heard that the guy couldn't visit other areas at all because of training or something. Arthur said he'd managed to escape a few days ago, and to be honest, he'd already caught the bastard. The girl said that that character was about level 40. How did the guy manage to catch him? The brother said he just hit him once and he died. Arthur told the girl that he had sent her a screenshot earlier. Had she forgotten? The girl remembered that it was 10 years ago, but she thought it was a joke. That's what Saya replied to her brother, that honestly, at that moment she thought it was photoshopped. The guy replied that he understood. In any case, if she wants Hydrag's head, let her go to the Liprian Mountains in Centennia. The girl asked, but why does her brother want her to go there? Suddenly he replied that in truth, he is a Chowsite and is up to his ears in the full now regime. Standing at the gate, the girl said she had some urgent business in the Liprius Mountains. One of the guards replied to the girl that she would die there in the clutches of some monster in no time. The girl replied that it was okay. Anyway, everyone comes back to life. Eventually she did get there. The men said they warned her. If she dies, don't let her blame them for what happened. She took the morning off, so if her brother lied, the girl would finish him off with her own hands. As she walked through the forest, she realized it was too quiet. Even though the guy said he'd gotten rid of all the mobs, she wondered what that strange feeling of emptiness was, as if not only the monsters but all living things had been destroyed. Putting a hand on her sister's shoulder, he asked if she had come. Screaming, the girl asked what he was doing. Scared the hell out of her, he could have at least hinted at his presence. After which she said, not that she was angry, but what kind of energy was that? Looks like her brother is really wallowing in full how. If it's that serious, just don't let him say he managed to kill a non-player character. The boy replied that one way or another, let him hold Getrag's head. The girl didn't believe what was happening until the last. She said you could go crazy, which turned out to be true. Then she asked how her brother did it. She still can't believe what happened. The guy confirmed that it was indeed the head of the wanted criminal Getrag. The quest was passed, and the girl receives 100 million gold coins. She realized that if she got exactly half, the girl could buy all kinds of her favorite burger. A memory immediately appeared in front of her eyes. She asked what happened to her brother. Does he eat something weird during his training sessions in the Olympus game? Why does he constantly spend his evenings cuddled up on the toilet? The guy asked 99 million gold coins. They seemed to be talking about splitting the bounty equally. The sister replied that it was his first earned money after those 20 years of torment. How could she take half of it from him? 1 million would be enough for her pocket money. As she ran away, She shouted that she had taken the morning off, so she had to go back. In the evening, the girl would buy hamburgers and offered to eat them with her parents. The guy thought 99 million gold coins, including the exchange fee and tax deduction, that's about 80 million won. He made 80 million at one time. As expected, this is the quest of a lifetime. The SSS-rated quest has not even started yet, and he already has so much money in his pocket. If the main quest is completed, he can't even imagine what reward awaits him. He needs to reach the 40th level as soon as possible and continue the quest. The guy will try to accelerate his growth even for a minute, even a second. Investing in the future, the answer of course is cash, isn't it? Turning to his sister, Ju Hyuk asked her to please buy the items instead. The girl replied that she had just returned from work. The brother said that if his business went well, he would give her 300,000 won every month for pocket money. The girl said 500. Saya felt like she was working overtime. All of the items he had acquired thanks to his sister were experience-enhancing artifacts. A small growth ring, a training necklace, a bracelet for someone who grows, a belt for someone who grows, and an earring seeking to increase experience. The total amount was 70 million gold coins, his first money he'd ever earned with his own hands. His sister said she didn't know why he asked her to buy it, but if he's going to make her run small errands in the future, then let her put up a teleportation point. My brother said okay, then asked how much it cost. She replied that setting up the first teleportation point is 3 million coins. After that, they will charge 300,000 every time they use it. After that, she said she'd better hide all her accessories using invisible mode, because it all looks terrible. The guy thought that from now on he should earn even more. First, he had to finish what he had started. Arthur told the elders they were moving out. First things first, leveling up. The guy asked if this was the Grzef Mountains. As it turned out, he was already being watched. The man asked who the guy was. Is he a chaos guy? The assistant standing next to him said that was perfect. He just needed a reputation boost. Afterwards, he asked, doesn't he look weak? The items are all basic. He must have died a lot on the way there. The man replied that he didn't know about that. But one thing was certain, he couldn't even detect them. His field of vision is extremely small, so he's probably a novice. Without thinking long, the man shouted to his aides to get everyone ready for battle. The guy thought no mobs. Suddenly, the system warned him that an outside force was about to take over his body. Watching Arthur, the boy asked, resisting the binding spell? They thought it looked like he was from a group of priests. However, all of his items are mediocre. It seems like he's had a lot of die and lost all of his artifacts. A guy only needs to kill one full how to rise to the League of Heroes. The man yells that enough talking. Let them grab that guy and call it a day. Captain Yu distracts the guy so he can't use teleportation or jump. He and Deputy Kim approach and attack. The guy said they could survive if they went back now. One of the men shouted that was nonsense. He yelled for the damn Chow set to stop bluffing. The guy wondered what level they were at. They all attacked one by one. A man yelled for Deputy Kim to grab him in a pincer. The guy thought it was strange. The experience wasn't diminishing. Arthur said great sword level 40. Would the build be about 20? Obviously the armor didn't fit. He hadn't even seen the guy do any sorcery. He wondered if he had prepared the spell in advance. The guy immediately shouted to the boss that it looked like he had prepared in advance and had come there on purpose. The guy thought, roughly speaking, it's no big deal. He realized he had to attack on his own. He can't use his skills yet, so I decided to try fists. The guy yelled to the boss to be careful, said this one was preparing a magic trick. He told me that it could be strong magic, so let them retreat while he fires anti-magic. After the attack, the system said that Nao's full status remained. The assassin's aura became darker. The man began to attack with his mighty hammer. With one blow, the boy repelled his attack. Arthur realized it was just a distraction tank. The system said again that the assassin's aura had grown darker, and aggravated. The guy asked if there was any support for the case. The man yelled for them to just run. It's not something they can handle. Tell everyone to run away now. They clearly underestimated the enemy. This is no ordinary mage. The guy said he was so confident when he jumped in, but now he's running away? He realized it was a bounce. The damn kid was playing with him to use the bounce. Only one man can do such a thing. A high-level melee player above level 60, player Hunter Rafindle. Arthur was pleased that he had reached level 16. The system said he showed the strongest image of a man, who would not forgive those who tarnished his honor. Suddenly, Luxo appeared next to the Lord. He said he had something to show him, and then asked him to follow him. This was the lair of the heavenly devil. The boy thought about the fact that they had been walking for a whole week, a whole 7 days of hiking. He didn't understand why the village was so far away. Suddenly, the man asked him to follow him, and he followed. Why couldn't a portal be opened in the center of the desert? Arthur thought it was good to have an acceleration point during the hike. But after that, they spent a week just stomping around. No animals, no monsters, nothing. For a whole week, the guy drank nothing but water. He's still on the edge of his 99th characteristic. Suddenly, the elder told his lord that there was a village ahead. The boy thought at last, if he had not arrived, he would soon eat. Walking a little farther, he said there it was. Arthur asked if it was definitely there. Luxo said yes. The guy thought the whole thing was kind of awkward, as if his mentors hadn't told him something. The people rejoiced that their absolute had returned, their savior had come. It was definitely their absolute ruler. To activate the small quest to rebuild the destroyed village, the boy thought that he should at least rebuild his body first. Prophet Carl said they had finally arrived. Calling the boy highly honorable, the prophet told him everything. He said that long ago, 12 elders had grown up in this area to hide from the eyes of the empire. They traveled the world in search of the descendants of the Absolute. This neighborhood is an environment with no monsters or animals. All this time, the people there have been hiding in poverty, endlessly waiting for him to come. Arthur asked if it was impossible to bring supplies from outside. The prophet replied that it was impossible. All the inhabitants were imprisoned there, including the elders. Nothing can be brought into that area from the outside. The guy realized that eventually, the first thing he'd have to do was feed people. Turning to Luxo, he asked how long the people there could live without him. The man replied that at most until the full moon. The boy shouted to the men that he knew how hungry and sad they were. Arthur was so absorbed in training that he couldn't take care of them. But now it will be different. He swears to give his last shirt for them. There's enough time before the full moon. Let them wait a little longer. The boy ordered Luxo to follow him. The two of them would be faster. Let the other elders stay there. They realized they were running out of time. He said that when they got outside, he would have them clean up all the monsters on the hike, and if any mana or items appeared to me, he would bring them to him. Arthur thought it was a quest. He could easily accomplish it if he tried just a little bit harder. Seeing with his own eyes, Luxo said that the Lord had indeed prepared everything in an hour. The boy replied that of course. He told to get you back quicker. The guy had prepared something that could be assembled quickly, but for now they would start small. A few days ago, the guy texted his sister. He asked her to bring him a magic sack and 800 cans of porridge. Let him come to the sticky mountains like that time. The girl didn't understand what this was all about. With the help of his sister, the guy would prepare the food in advance. She asked why would he do such a thing. Arthur replied that he would pay for everything. Saya asked the blue stone, "What brother has a sponsor? How did he get such a precious thing?" He told his sister to sell it, and he could have 10% for himself. I thought he must have gotten very lucky. The guy added that he'd have her buy him 3 teleporters. Luxo got this blue stone on a hunt. He needs to buy a teleporter and assign a point to the Lepres Mountains, then the Heavenly Devil's Lair, and the Heavenly Devil's Village. He had managed to drastically cut down the time that would have taken over a week by walking. 3 teleporters was expensive, but that was okay. 12th Elder Eder pondered that the fellow had left the Heavenly Devil Village, leaving the borders unattended. Since he called himself the successor, let him be it properly. Elder Luxo let him follow it to his heart's content, but not all elders are of the same opinion. If the heavenly devils do any harm or lie, they must react. Suddenly, he was distracted from his thoughts by the cry that the Absolute was back. And with such a huge pile of stuff, when they went outside, the elder asked what was in there. The boy replied that it was food. He said that he would like to give them milk and honey, but if you give fatty food to those who have been starving for a long time, you can get sick, so let them trust him. The 12th elder didn't understand where he got so much food from. People couldn't believe it was food. They talked about finally eating. They shouted that nothing is impossible for the absolute ruler. Turning to one of the elders, the boy asked him to share everyone's food along with Luxo. Those leaving, the boy shouted that he would be the first, then asked them if they trusted him. The elders said they did. He realized that both food, shelter, and clothing needed improvement, but for now he would have to work hard to get food in. The 12th elder asked the Lord if he could come in for a while. The boy replied that he could come in. Turning to him, the elder fell to his knees and begged to be spared for his disloyalty. He will doubt his master, but he is their true leader. Arthur thought of it as a long-term project, but one man had already changed his mind. Sitting down, the boy told Eddard that he was still missing a lot. His options are very limited. He realizes that the elder doesn't believe him. After all, the boy would have done the same thing in his place, but he said he would believe him, so Arthur would repay his trust. Eddard again apologized to his lord for his disloyalty. The guy is already level 19 and getting boost points. It's not a bad idea to test the characteristics and go to that very place. Luxo said that if he moved on, he would arouse the Empire's suspicion. Eddard would be better taken. He has good stealth skills. While in the Lepery Mountains, a guy said he was seeing a bear there for the first time. Is that a giant bear? Eddard asked the Lord if he should kill him. Arthur replied that he shouldn't. He thought about the fact that the giant bear was about level 40, a big monster of the kind usually caught by a group of 5 or 6 people. He remembered the last time he'd had a fight party alone. The guy realized he was only one, so he would be able to catch him alone. Eddard said that this was definitely their lord. The boy replied that he thought he would at least fight. Why was the bear so weak? Did he think the monsters were weak, or the guy was strong? Anyway, one thing's for sure. Arthur said they're moving out. With that we can go to the Anicaps dungeon. The man replied that he would listen and obey. A few days later they found themselves at the entrance to the Anicaps dungeon. The elders said they had arrived. Eddard told the Lord that there were many footprints inside the dungeon. The boy replied that of course there were. This is a beginner's dungeon located near Urkas, the starting town. Since there you can get boost points for completing a level of appropriate difficulty. This place is just teeming with academy students and instructors belonging to the Grand Alliance. The guy thought he took down a giant bear with one punch. How good are big union instructors? Arthur told the elder to go. As long as it's discreet, let him follow. It was the safe zone of the dungeon. The boy told his friend that it was his second time there, but he was still nervous as hell. He replied that he would like to clean up the dungeon completely this time. Suddenly, the guy asked if there was a chow site in there. They decided to inform the instructor right away. The boy shouted to him that there was a chow site there, and that the instructor should go there as soon as possible. As he approached, the instructor asked what kind of bastard had lost his fear there. As the guy hunted monsters throughout his journey, he came to the conclusion that when he kills monsters with his own hands, items don't fall out. Looking at the status window, he thought that just let it not show that because of that thing, the probability of items dropping out was lowered. The consequences of luck going negative are too great. It would be nice to just let the elders take the final blow, but it kills them with a single blow. The instructor asked what the guy was up to. Looking at him, the guy thought his sister had warned him that they were in big unions. Their level is over 40. The man yelled that he was asking again. What was on his mind? The guy immediately asked why he was poking him now. The instructor replied that he had seen bastards like the guy many times. If he left the dungeon now, he would keep him alive. Upon looking, the instructor realized that he was level 19 and had no items at all, meaning he was trash who couldn't even use stealth. Calling him a pathetic lowlife who has no ability, the instructor asked did he take it upon himself to target students? The guy thought that since there were students there, we should just part ways amicably. He said he'd let them ignore him, just minding their own business while the guy goes about his. He's just here to clean up the dungeon, that's all. The instructor asked, does he think the man would believe a word of such garbage? He already knows what the guy is up to, doesn't he? He told the students not to worry about anything, just have them stand behind him. One of the boys responded, which is to be expected from a Holy Alliance instructor. Arthur told the instructor that if he didn't touch him, the guy wouldn't hurt him. He'd said loud and clear, he just needed to clean up the dungeon. It seems that today the guy would be able to find out what the skills of a member of the Sacred Alliance were. The instructor said that a loser in life would stoop to bluffing. The guy said he didn't intend to deal with the students like some loser. His goal was just to clean up the dungeon. Calling him a lowly laughingstock, the instructor shouted that all his spittle would now be dispelled. The guy yelled that he was giving a last warning, let them not touch him. Then he wouldn't touch them either. The man shouted, so it looks like the guys have at least one strange technique. Arthur asked, and that was his whole attack? The instructor didn't realize what kind of bastard this was. He doesn't look like a normal, experienced rookie. There's something about him. He immediately yelled out that he was requesting support. There's a level 19 Chow site. Although it's low level, it has some strange techniques. The guy yelled that he warned me. I mean, he just came to clean up the dungeon, told me to stay out of his way. He even gave a final warning, didn't he? The instructor thought it was a curse, shattered the sword with his bare hands. A man yelled emergency, requesting emergency support. Then there was a massive explosion. The guys immediately started asking each other, are they okay? Then they realized the instructor had been killed. What should they do? They saw the Chow site coming in their direction. Looking at the guy asked if they were going to fight him too. Everyone immediately shook their heads in the negative, and he said it was the right thing to do. After that, he said that after they diligently fulfill the quests and become outstanding people. After he left, the guys immediately started contacting other instructors. Arthur thought that even if he was a Chow site, he had no intention of killing the students. What an unpleasant residue on his soul. The guy thought it looked like he was in the right place. Is this the defensive fortress in the center of the dungeon? He thought he should deal with them first, so he could then destroy the last base at the end of the dungeon. Since the guy won't get any items for killing monsters anyway, he decided to just quickly destroy this fortress. He thinks 10 blows will be enough to bring this thing down. Then he throws the first punch. Arthur didn't expect that he could destroy a part of it with a single blow. He thought it couldn't be. Surely this was a defensive fortress? Then he thought whatever. He should be happy that everything was going smoothly. He needs to clean up the dungeon quickly. The instructors saw that the defensive fortress had already been destroyed. They said that didn't the report say that the Chow site was only level 19? One of the instructors said he didn't understand a damn thing. How could a guy single-handedly destroy a fortress so quickly? And without touching a single skeleton monster? Maybe he's using some kind of special item? Suddenly, the system alerted everyone that the Emancium dungeon had been completely cleared. Has the instructor been asked yet? Arthur didn't understand why there were so many skeleton soldiers. For a true level 19, that would be hard to mop up. Still, it seems to be the final base of the dungeon. The guy asked, then where's the name of it? I'll have to find it. He thought the shield wouldn't explode with a single blow, would it? The shield exploded immediately after the first blow. The guy asked if the shield was completely destroyed. Why is it so weak? He realized that the other instructors would be chasing him. After that, I thought that it is a low-level dungeon. There everything falls with a single blow. He decided to use the points he had earned. Thanks to them, he was able to raise his level to 20. Now the guy can go to the Desert of Darkness. However, he thought he was being chased. So where were those instructors? Were they waiting for him at the entrance to the dungeon? He decided to see how many of them there were. He found out that 1 to 5 people can get together. They'd better be level 50 players. The guy said there were more of them than he expected. One of the inspectors shouted for them to listen to the enemy leader. Glancing around, the boy asked if there was anyone else there besides him. Arthur thought that Eddard had rolled back his disguise. The instructor realized that in the event of a battle, his forces would attack the students first. She said she knew exactly what he was aiming for. She hoped there would be no pointless battles. What's the big deal? The guy just wanted to try a round. Should he just let them go? Arthur realized that if they fought there, some of the students would die again. The inspector asked him to let the students go. He didn't want to die a senseless death himself. The guy said he understood. So they're not going to fight? I mean, he was the one who asked to leave him first. The priority is to go to the Desert of Darkness. We can do this fight later. One of the inspectors said that thanks to her there were no casualties. The woman replied that she was not to be thanked. But we must not forget that when he entered the dungeon, the instructor and the innocent students died. She said it was a very deliberate move. Judging by the quick cleanup, it seems very likely that this guy is being assisted by some kind of force. He knows they have a bunch of students to protect, so they need to talk him down and send him back. They decided to return to the starting point of the dungeon. The woman said his forces must have been hiding somewhere. If there was a battle, they would target the students first. The instructor asked who he was. She said she didn't know, but judging by the dark aura, it was definitely a full Hao. He's probably a Rafindle. The man asked if Rafindle was level 50. She replied that maybe he was using cheats to misrepresent his level. The guy yelled that if he recognized him, he'd have him logged out quickly. He'd find a good use for what fell out of them. After a great catch, Rafindle thought, what kind of enemy is this guy who is following him? There were many comments saying he was seen in many different places at the same time. He didn't realize what kind of chaos man was pretending to be him. Heard he'd recently checked into the adamantium dungeon. If there's a mistake, the Grand Alliance seems to be after him. A Grand Alliance as a way of life means before he gets pestered, he better catch that bird himself. Arthur said that this time it was worth going where the monsters were clustered in appreciable numbers. He asked if there were any elders who specialized in extensive magic. One of the elders raised his hand and said that he was the best at expansive magic. Arthur said that this time, he was his companion. It was time for them to go on their way. The elder replied that he would listen and obey. The guy thought about it, because speaking of which, his little sister's birthday is coming up. This time he needs to play the role of an older brother well. The system alerted that the monster would appear in 10 minutes. He thought about how slow it was, then asked Zeta if she was ready. The elder shouted that she would break every bone and tear all flesh to obey the Lord's order, and would do so again and again. Everyone else noticed the guy was a hawk. They thought they'd go public, decided to take him down before the high-level reinforcements arrived. The guy ordered to destroy all the monsters and capture the blue stone. Looking at what was happening, thought what a leisurely escape through the teleporter. Then he said he brought her along because she's good at extensive magic, so let her show it. The elder shouted the future of the Lord, may he prosper. As it turned out, it was the coming of the god of evil. She ordered him to beat and kill anyone who stands in the way of the overlord. Watching what was going on, the guy thought he wanted to use his skills too. The system said the killer's aura was growing darker, the sin compounding. Fame spread across the continent. The Death Star rose. Death Star rising occurs when a full now mode player raises notoriety to a certain level or higher. In addition, the player marked by the Death Star becomes less resistant to divine type skills. The resurrection time increases to 240 hours after death. However, for him, the leader of the heavenly devils, is it normal for a guy to continue to grow in such a direction? Arthur decided to check the notice later. The first thing to do was to put the place in order. Looking around, he asked the elder what he thought. Had they more or less put things in order there? Zeta replied that he was right. The boy saw a large crowd of bulls. He asked if the elder could deal with them. She replied that she would skin them alive. Approaching one of the bulls, the guy said he was begging. Let him not die from one of his blows. Looking at the lying bull, the guy said that although he had envisioned something like this, she struck again. Well, it can't be helped. At least the elder will have something to fall back on. At least he's getting coins. Watching them from the sidelines, one of the guys said he'd never seen such crazy bastards. He asked if it wasn't an automatic attack. The guy replied that he doubted the point of the one with the ball wasn't particularly important, but the other opponent was clearly a melee mage. Judging from the damage it dealt, it clearly specializes in attacks. When they attacked as a group earlier, they couldn't even move. So he's at least level 50. The elder shouted the words to their honorable lord, after which she said an all-encompassing lightning strike. Watching her, Arthur thought how professional. Turning to the elder, the boy asked during the skill cooldown, have him collect the blue stones. Zeta replied that it would be done. Looking at the blue stones in his hands, the guy said that speed that normal players never even dreamed of. The system alerted us that the boss monster had been summoned. Artur said it was time to go now, and asked if the boss monster was there. It was a black bull king. The boy said it was the first time he'd ever seen such a thing. Arthur told the elder to clean up the small scum and grab the items that had fallen out. The guy thinks he'll be more dangerous than normal bulls. Since we're talking about the territory boss, at least one pack containing 20 blue stones should fall out of him. So begging, let him stay on his feet after one blow from him. Suddenly, the elder turned to the Lord. Zeta told him what he felt, someone with great power approaching. The boy replied that he was just about to catch the thing. Arthur said it was no surprise. They were bound to show up sooner or later. He'd only be adding to his troubles if he started a fight with them right there. Right now the guy is weak, so he has to endure this kind of humiliation, but one day they will bring back the former glory of the heavenly devil. The guy thought about what he was now convinced for sure. No matter how many times he looked, there wasn't a single announcement of something like a new monster patch. The Black Bull King is a monster that has never been mentioned before. Maybe there's some of his -99 luck influence in there? If the Black Bull King was able to withstand his strike, he would already have a pock of blue stones in his pocket. Today he went to the adamantium dungeon, but the difficulty is insanely high. Suddenly, black skeleton soldiers popped up, but even a group of level 19 players can't deal with them. Suddenly, a black giant bear has appeared in giant bear habitat. Is anyone aware of the criteria for change? The boy wondered if these weren't the same places he'd been to lately. Had all this happened because of him? He saw in the notifications that the boys were discussing a black monster in the Desert of Darkness. Arthur thought it looked like they were talking about him. He said that the Chow site destroyed all the bull monsters and retreated at the site of the Black Bull King. After destroying him, they received 3 packs of blue stones, each containing 30 pieces. The guy was yelling 90 grand of blue stones. That's almost 450 million gold coins. Right in front of his nose was 450 million. Because of all the expenses, the guy ended up with only 15 million won. With that amount of money, it's not hard to buy a birthday present for his sister or provide for his own food. But to be honest, with such a paltry balance, thinks he'll never buy a house or a car. Since the low actual level, there are many areas that the guy can't visit, because the skills are also blocked. The guy said that it was a monster whose overall characteristics had increased significantly. He really didn't look like an average monster. The man replied that they should continue hunting as before. They will increase the number of people if necessary. They have plenty of regular players that can be easily replaced. He said that the Chow site who was rampaging in the Desert of Darkness had done much harm to the members of their Great Alliance. Let them make sure it was really Rafindle and try to gather as much information about him as they can. After 3 weeks, the guy reached level 29. Approaching the Lord, Luxo said that because of the 3-week march, he was worried that the Lord's jade body might be damaged. The guy replied thanks for the concern. However, he's fine. Let Luxo take it easy. Although his body has many limitations, he can't show his weak side. In order to hasten the day when everything in the world will kneel before the heavenly devil, allow himself not a moment's rest. So the guy will keep running with his eyes forward. So let him put the worry aside and give him support. Luxo bowed to the Lord and said he would serve him until he breathed his last breath. The guy thought, right, let him do it. All for his future apartment, for his future imported car, and for the ultimate goal of the building owner. My sister asked if the guy got a quest too, right? Right now quests are being given out all over the game world. She already got hers. The guys watched the others' correspondence. The girl said they were only joking around. Artur asked why they were all so aggressive. And no, still don't know exactly what these hidden classes are, but if it's a hidden class related to the main story of Olympus, it surely has incredible power. Looking at her brother, the girl asked about not trying out for this quest. The guy replied that he can't. No non-player character will give him this quest. Saya replied that she didn't know. She's busy with alliance assignments, but she'll have some time. Rankers who have more time or foreign players will definitely challenge. The lad thought that somehow, in the recently visited hunting grounds, the difficulty had increased dramatically. The situation is such that this quest seems to include him and the heavenly devil as the ultimate evil. If that's true, the worst-case scenario is that 7 hidden classes will rush to catch him at once, and he was going to live happily ever after, eating well in a nice place like the bourgeoisie. Arthur told all the elders that this time he would go alone. They began to tell the Lord not to. It's very dangerous, and he should reconsider. The lad replied that it wasn't a matter of him not being aware of their loyalties at all. However, according to his informant, their movements were now known in the Earth's empire. Arthur said it's a good time to be careful. So he's going alone this time. The guy thought that now that the 7 Holy Thrones quest had been introduced, one could unnecessarily anger the Empire by taking the elders with them. He hopes to get the approval of the other elders soon and increase his strength. Eder had moved to his side rather quickly, so there were only 4 men left. After solving the food problem, it was logical that the next step would be to improve habitat, but the cost of food is so high that nothing more can be done for now. At the end of the day, all we have to do is work for the levels. We have to get to level 40 somehow. Then the guy will be able to apply the mind-conquering heaven technique and will be able to continue the quest with the map left by his mentor, after which the situation will be developed. Of course, the guy can't get blue stones on his own yet, but it's optimal at this point. You have to plow like crazy and level up like crazy to set up your future. Having dealt with 3 giant bears the guy said he'd stabbed, at least it took the stress away. The system notified that the skill Unusually Powerful Fist had appeared. The boy asked at what point. It would come in handy during a hunt, he rejoiced. For now he could get artifacts until he was done with the last blow. He could buy a pet and use it to get items and give it food. Suddenly, a voice said he'd finally found him. Then it asked him if it was him. Arthur replied that something like this seemed to have happened before. Rafindel shouted that this time he was really in trouble because of a guy. Constant problems and bewilderment over something he didn't do. Does he not listen to him at all? The guy is referring to the big union boys. Looking at him, Arthur asked him who he was. Rafindel asked if he really didn't know him. Does the guy have a conscience? Is he messing around or something? Calling him a funny man, Arthur replied that he really didn't know. The guy replied that it was absurd. He yells out that his name is Rafindel, who the guy's claiming to be. He's there to catch him and turn him over to the goddamn Alliance. Then he said it was a good time to get on your knees and beg. The guy should pay for using his name. After which he asked him what he was afraid of. If he obediently surrendered, he wouldn't kill him after a few blows. If he calmly surrenders and admits his guilt to the Alliance, he won't be touched. Suddenly, Arthur asked if he wanted to fight him himself. Calling the guy a goddamn bastard, Rafindel replied that he was trying to be nice to him as a full how. The guy realized it was the nail of death, but Rafindel's main weapon. He only had 3% left to level up. The guy was definitely a level 50 player. Arthur thought that since he wanted to play for real, looking at the guy, he has a special skill. Now it looks true that he killed the Alliance captain with one punch. However, with a skill of this level, the delay would inevitably be long. Looking at Rafindel, the boy asked if he had hit it. He replied that he had just missed the moment a little. Arthur said he was sorry, because he'd had a good punch. Maybe he could have hit him a little harder. Rafindel realized that he was talking such useless nonsense at a time like this. Obviously it was to buy time to recover the skill. Common sense would dictate that if the next skill was ready, for a conflict situation, he would be ready to run away right now. The guy wouldn't be safe if he hit him now, properly. The player is defenseless during the cooldown. At some point, Rafindel realized that the boy was much more cunning than he thought. The first blow was a decoy, but the second was full force. Naturally, things didn't go as expected. The guy thought that it would be easier if he could use at least the mind gaze skill available at level 55. Rafindel shouted that this was the real end. Now he would show him his full strength. Only let him. He must face the Grand Alliance. There was talk that Rafindel had one particular way of killing. Was it the heart attack? The guy thought then, there's a secret weapon on his side too. It's a simple punch. Rafindel shouted that it looked like the guy just didn't have any usable skills left, but it was too late. Rafindel didn't understand what the hell was going on. After all, the attack using the heart attack skill was successful. The boy didn't understand where the monster-like son of a bitch had come from. Looking at his body, Arthur asked if he was really dead, or did he just pretend to be dead? Had the earlier attack destroyed all the defense spells? He figured that if the guy had no defense, why the hell was he even rushing at him? Arthur thought he was strong. His attack using the heart attack skill didn't even take away 10 units of his health. The guy had a hunch that he had underestimated his damage. How could one fight when the defense failed? And what kind of a full how player was it that didn't even lose a single item? Rafindel was surprised that not a single item had fallen after his death. The item drop when killing a full how player is 100%. So why is there nothing? The guy thought he was glad too, but he also wondered why. As he gets closer, the guy sees that he has destroyed all of his items. He didn't understand why the items were destroyed. The guy had given some gold bars for them. He said that since all the items were destroyed, it makes sense that nothing would fall out. Either way, the level 50 opponent doesn't seem to pose any threat to him. Methinks he's pumped up enough to go into high-ranked hunting grounds. Calling him a damned imposter, the guy yelled that he would catch him, by all means. As it turned out, he was enslaved to the soul. The man said what a fine piece of material. He managed to get his hands on such a first-class corpse. Luck was clearly on his side today. The guy didn't realize who he was. Appeared out of nowhere, and what did he intend to do? He said it'd be nice to get the guy he fought with, too. That's okay, though. He's fine on his own. The system said there was a special interdiction. The boy thought he'd come back to life. If he didn't lift the ban, his soul would be bound forever. The man said that now it was time to do 10 push-ups. The guy asked what kind of crazy shit is he talking about? Why on earth would he do something like that? The system says that soul slavery is in effect. If he disobeys the caster's command, he will suffer terribly. The caster said that as long as he listened to him, he wouldn't feel any pain. The boy thought that he had never heard of such a skill before. Could it be a skill belonging to a hidden class like necromancer? Judging by his manner of speech, he seems to be a young man. If he greases him well, he might be able to win him over to his side. Turning to the host, the guy asked he had said earlier that he wanted that guy's corpse, right? He would help him with that. Saya asked if her brother would really buy her hamburgers, as many as she wants. The guy said yes, let her order. Although he has to make a lot of effort to feed and take care of the village of the Heavenly Devil, but now the guy does not cost anything to buy a hamburger for his sister. Looking at her brother, the girl asked why he suddenly cared about her so much. Before, he'd put a strict limit on buying one single, miserable hamburger. The brother replied that he had a request for her. The girl asked if he wanted her to buy something again. Arthur told his sister not to take anything he said as a joke, because the question was serious. The girl asked what was the strange atmosphere. Is he going to take away her hamburgers? The guy began to say that now his luck is lame on both legs, with monsters all clear, but even when killing a player full now nothing falls out. At least up until this point, there had been non-player characters around to help him, but now it had become difficult to use even their services. In the current situation, thinks the pet would also prove to be burdensome ballast. He asked his sister what she thought about starting a firm with him. The girl asked him if he was serious now. Who even starts a firm nowadays? The boy said it would be a different kind of firm. She replied that if the entrepreneur doesn't have enough information or funds, the cream of the crop is usually skimmed off by the big union and the firm eventually goes bankrupt. How about we weigh the pros and cons again? The brother replied that he had already thought it over. Therefore, his proposal is not spontaneous. The sister asked what he intended to do. Arthur replied, let him listen carefully to what kind of firm he was going to start. The director said that last time in the Desert of Darkness they lost many union members. He's talking about that chow site that doesn't kill if you don't touch it. The president replied that's why they sent recommendations from everywhere. When meeting Full How with no items, leave him alone. The man replied that that chow site didn't seem to be Rufindel. Have them look at the video. He said the tape was recorded the other day. There was a fight between a Rufindel and that Full How. The president replied that he was impressed that the man managed to get such a video. Rufindel seemed to have made the wrong choice as well. Even though the defense magic had been destroyed, he rushed into the attack lightly. The director responded that the president was right. And the analysis, based on this video, concluded that he is a high-level melee fighter. He looks pretty young. There's an assumption that he's gotten a hidden class. It seems that due to his young age, he doesn't know how to fully utilize his abilities yet. And while gathering information, they managed to get a promotion quest from one of the noble non-game characters. The president asked what was its content. The director replied that all they had to do was to catch Ramtadian. He said that at present the nobles thought of Ramtadian as a Full How. The president asked if he was not too different from the one in the portrait. The man replied that to be sure, they had asked the nobles to confirm whether it was indeed the same person. As a result, they came to the conclusion that this is what the system currently thinks. The president replied that as long as they get the promotion points, everything else is irrelevant. He asked how many units of strength he would need. The director replied that 30 people would be enough. He thought it would be enough to pay 100,000 won as consolation money in case of deaths and 3 million won as incentives for those who contributed the most to the raid. The girl asked if they thought it was really enough. Still, their lives are on the line. Though it's a death inside Olympus, the pain is real. The director replied that they have the necessary growth points and all their union members are committed to the company, so they will work hard. And most importantly, shouldn't everyone work hard when they are young? The president said that he too thought that 3 million would be enough for performance. The director added that there was a bounty of 700 million gold coins on Ramtadian's head. 200 million belongs to the president, and 100 million will go to each of the 3 board members. Then, after paying out consolation money and incentives, they will divide the remaining amount among themselves. Smiling, the president thought that 3 million was enough. It didn't matter if their union members died or not. The main thing was to keep the money flowing into his pocket. The sister, the guy asked if she was there yet. Did she find everything he asked her to? The girl replied that yes, it's all there. But is it really enough for him? It's all just ordinary magic for beginners, isn't it? And much less efficient than what a wizard class can use. Even so, It's not like he wouldn't have time to study while changing classes. With his level and ability, the guy would have already changed classes. He asked if his sister had heard of such a thing. Even a weed can become a sword if you become a sword master. The girl replied that no, she had not heard of it. If a player with excellent characteristic strikes, even the simplest strike can become a special trick. Too bad his characteristics aren't good enough to play a one-fist punch man. The girl asked brother what? You really haven't changed class yet? The guy asked so what of it? Seiya asked where it was even seen. A person with those abilities and yet no class? Does that even make any sense at all? She believed him and even wrote a resignation letter. She's speechless. Her brother has to be responsible for her. She's in on it too. The guy replied that he knew, so he was grateful to her. She told him that she had no experience in using magic with characteristics like his. As an experiment, she suggested starting with healing. The girl said that after all, it's just normal magic. Honestly, doesn't it count too effectively? He still offered to try it first. With characteristics like his, it's bound to have an effect. The guy used basic treatment. The sister asked him if he was done. Would she drink the potion then? The boy replied that he would let her look at her life first. The girl wondered why the strip was full. He replied that he thought it was enough to heal her and would now give her a boost, so let her try to fight. Seiya asked who she should fight. To catch a skeleton? The guy replied that someone already showed up. The girl asked from behind, who could be there? Turning around, she saw a giant bear. She asked her brother, does he want the girl to do him? But he usually does it in a group. 3 minutes later, the girl had a giant bear. She was screaming that she was going crazy. It was crazy. The guy asked her if she believed it now. The girl shouted that she found the blue stone, so she earned 5 million won on her own. He said that if she gave it to the union, she would get 100,000 won as a reward. Since they don't belong to any unions but work together, whatever they find, they have everything. The guy said that he was going to level up in the Desolation of Darkness to 45th level, then asked his sister if she was going with him. She said sure. While in the Desert of Darkness, after reciting some spell, the girl used a lightning strike to slay all the black bulls. Her brother told her it was a great job. A blue stone fell out. The girl was happy because she and her brother already have 18 blue stones. If they sell it all, it's 9 million won. She couldn't contain her joy and shouted about being able to open her own burger place. The guy thought it was probably because of the black monsters. There are hardly any people around. This place isn't as popular as it used to be. Someone from behind decided to attack the guy, but he fought him off with one punch. Afterwards, he said that someone was still there. My brother asked the girl to pick up the items if I did. She replied that she would, after which she asked if it was a robbery. The guy replied that everyone thinks he's a low-level Hazard, so they don't attack first, only those who attack them. And since they attacked, the items belong to them. Seiya said that they seem to have pretty high levels. The guy replied that at a guess, level 50, and a whole squad of allies. Turning to her brother, she said it was a raid on his soul. Then she asked him what he was standing for. Time to run. Looking at the nearby troops, the guy replied that it was a little late to run. The girl thought about the fact that they were dead. He whispered to his sister not to worry. Then he asked her to step back a little, so it wouldn't look like they were on the same side. Looking at them, the guy asked just how many men did it take for them to overpower him alone? If they didn't attack first, he wouldn't kill them. The director yelled that it was definitely him. Just keep your distance, keep your strategy in mind. He shouted binding magic. The guy asked, oh, didn't he make himself clear? Not attacking, not killing. The man shouted that if they were blocking normal magic like that, let them stop. The director said that even though he's at a high level, Ramtadian has a melee class, basic magic won't do anything. If you block it, the ranged players will immediately form a skill combo. After a tremendous explosion, the guy asked what else is Ramtadian? Last time it was Rafindle, now this? Looking around, the director didn't understand what had happened. Did everyone die? What do you mean? Why are they all dead? Isn't he a master of hand-to-hand combat? He thought that although the guy was using basic magic, but this mage had such power, if it's a high-level wizard, he wouldn't be bound, because resistance to slavery would be high. But even now, he's standing still. Should they flee the field? Arthur replied that either way, they would die if they were affected by his magic. She told him that it was the first time she had ever seen a fireball that big. The guy replied that he didn't know it could do that either. Turning to her brother, She asked if he was in captivity now. The boy replied that he was not. The sister then asked why he was not moving and was just standing still. He replied that he was talking to her, and the fireball's cooldown wasn't over yet. He wants to use it against them a few more times. Looking at her brother, the girl realized that she could no longer consider him a reasonable person. The system said that currently, it would take 50 seconds to recharge the fireball skill. The guy thought the duration was about a minute. Annoying. The director said on the signal, all rangers to prepare for a large-scale attack. He doesn't quite know what's going on, but the kid's a mage, not a fighter. Jean urgently requested support. He said that the target was not a melee fighter. They needed a tanker capable of setting up a level 30 or higher defense magic barrier. The president asked, what is the situation at the moment? The man said there were 3 dead. Fortunately, he was tied up and his skill recharges long, so the damage done is low. Thinks to minimize the damage, they should catch him. The big picture is clear to him. They are rushing to their aid, so let him hold out a little longer. Even if he has to share the pie, the number of attackers obviously needs to be increased. The director ordered the rangers to prepare for the attack. He said that although the enemy was a mage, he was bound for the moment. Now is their chance. They opened fire on the guy. The director shouted for them to attack continuously so that the skill link wouldn't be interrupted, not giving him any chance to counterattack, concentrating on the battle. The guy thought that's great, the tactic's working. What difference does it make if you're a fighter or a mage? All it takes is just 2 things, binding the enemy and a well-executed attack. With any luck, who by the time the president arrives, they'll have managed to knock off half of his life points. Seeing him, the director asked him if he was tied up. The guy replied that he was out of cooldown. Then he used the fireball again. The director shouted that the curse, let him block it as fast as possible. Arthur said he kept repeating, if they didn't attack first, he wouldn't kill them. The guys thought what the hell, they said he was a mage. They decided to retreat. The director shouted to them to stand. Let them block the target and don't dare run away. The president came up from behind and said that the director was a good man for standing up to it. Let him do the rest. The director asked what about the support players. The man replied that he had contacted their partners. In the current situation, catching him was the first priority. So he shared the quest. Everyone immediately dispatched their forces after he announced that he would share the promotion quest. Seeing that he had managed to deal with so many in such a short period of time. There's 200 men there now, basically an invincible army, so they have nothing to worry about. Besides, the guy's alone. Thinks he's pretty exhausted at the moment. They'll be able to grab him in no time. The guy realized that each of them was many times weaker than Rufendel, so his life points remained almost untouched. Even if he takes damage, his recovery speed is tremendous, so it doesn't matter. At this rate, it can't even deal with 200 people. The sister thought he'd be okay, right? When she turned to her, the guy said that she should at least hit him once. He said she'd be under suspicion if she did. Thinks it looks weird just to keep standing there. The girl asked how about a lightning strike? He said let him do what he wants. Before the guy can tell his sister to wait, he wants to check the notice and then he can release the lightning. And she still calls him his little sister. The guy realized that this was the one. He had anticipated it would happen soon, but it was still too sudden. He thought Celestial Death Star? He needs to check the information. He opened the ranks window. The boy thought that no matter which way you look at it, doesn't it look like a rare diabolical killer? He feels that he is steadily approaching something called absolute evil. However, the deeper one sinks in sins, the higher the loyalty of the heavenly devil becomes. Seeing the latter effect, he will be fine even if he clashes with the hero in battle. The principal thought the curse, is he a mage or a fighter? Why are the answers different? The guy asked what he was carrying. He doesn't actually have a class. The president knew that bastard was going to kill them all. They said it was just a promotion quest. They said it was easy. The man asked if he was out of class. Then he said there's no such thing. It is a hidden class that becomes dangerous when the name assigned to it is revealed. A class child warlord who appeared 40 years ago. A low-level Dalnik accidentally shot him in the armpit with an arrow, and he died instantly. That guy is also a hidden class with a great weakness in an unexpected place. Calling him a bastard, the president yelled for the guy to get ready. He would surely find his Achilles heel and finish him off. The guy replied that okay, except he didn't have anything like that. Although, if you think about it, The lack of long-range combat skills could be considered a weakness. Suddenly, the girl told her brother if he could do some experiments with her. He said yes, and then asked her what she had. The girl replied that she seemed to have gotten a special professional quest. Saya told her brother that she would hit at full strength. The guy replied that it was fine. He had used all the buffs, so he could hit as much as he wanted. After her lightning strike, the guy thought it tingled a bit. Even though he used a buff, it felt like Rafindel's death hold. However, his recovery speed is very fast. He wondered how long such a pace would be maintained if the attack became continuous. After an hour of continuous attack, the system said that the girl had detected a celestial Death Star. Turning to her brother, she asked him the rank of the celestial Death Star. My brother asked, what does this have to do with the quest? He does have a rank. Then he asked his sister to wait and said he would deal with the monsters and come back. The system was saying that the celestial Death Star was panicking. The girl thought it didn't look like her brother was panicking, and he's not trying to escape at all. I asked my brother to get as far away from her as possible. He said he was going ahead, and if anything happened, to call her. The system said that the celestial Death Star has escaped. It fully satisfies the conditions of the class quest. The system says that the main script notification has been updated. One seat among the 7 holy thrones is now occupied. The girl asked sits on the holy throne. The president of the alliance thanked everyone for coming. He said that he was sorry to report this on an offline conference, but the alliance had run into difficulties. He said that the quest to capture Full Hao failed due to misinformation. As a result, many traders turned away, and the alliance was dealt a devastating blow. The man said that in response to such a loss, they had to urgently reduce the staff of the alliance. People are starting to say the economy is down because of the black monsters. It's a very difficult time for the president. He said that with regret in their hearts, they decided to continue the quest. The man doesn't know when it will happen, but once the quest is completed, everyone will be able to get upgrade points. The president said as soon as things get better in the alliance, he hopes to see them again under better circumstances. There's a lot of people who want to work there, cut where they need to cut, rip where they need to rip. Although the alliance's own losses have been reduced by reducing the number of personnel, we need to rebuild relationships with partners. Of course, this time the Chow site finished him off too, so the man can accept it to some extent, but once lost reputation is hard to regain. He realized it was a matter of life and death. Together with the directors, the alliance could only survive by pouring secret funds into eliminating that Chow site. The man realized he had someone to give the kill order through. As soon as he went inside, one of the men said he hadn't seen him in a long time. He asked what was the man's business today. The man replied that today was an assassination order from the Sarmak group. The president said it's a hassle, but Sarmak can handle it. The guy asked how much money he had on the order. He replied that 1 billion gold in advance. After a short thought, the guy replied that it would be done in 3 days. The president thought 2 top factions to kill the Empire Earth's Sarmak and the Black Flowers. Damn Chow site. He didn't know the man was affiliated with the Sarmak faction. It pains him to spend 10 billion on it, but he has no choice. The premium for his elimination is 7 billion, 3 billion less. Everyone will be able to get promotion points, so that's the best option at the moment. The system has alerted us to the safe zone. As for other losses, with the staff reductions, they have cut pay, so it will offset the losses to some extent. The only thing left to do is to wait it out for 3 days. The president realized it looked like he'd been killed. He thought about something he hadn't even noticed. At what point did it happen? The system alerted him that he would remain in spirit form until he left the game. Suddenly someone approached him. He realized that that card was a sign of black flowers. He wondered why they were. The man said this is just the beginning. He's been given an indefinite death sentence. Bowing, the guy said that like a man and ordered. The order was placed by a grouping of black flowers. He must be dead by now. The man replied that well, the current request is forcing him to make the move personally. The guy told the head that he could give the job to his subordinates. As soon as he saw that the head was furious, he knew he was done for. The head replied that he himself was going to fulfill the request he had received. Let the lad bear it in mind. The man thought that finally, the moment had come. It had been 30 years since he had created the Sarmak faction in the name of absolutes. How many labors? How many dangerous days? But the long-awaited absolute ruler is not yet ready. Even if the reason for this is because of limitations, These are the circumstances. If he really is a natural-born absolute ruler, the second elder should personally make sure of it. Arthur asked himself what. Had she already passed level 30? The girl replied that yes. She had gained so much experience since she changed classes. The guy said that she doesn't even have her promotion points right now. Then he asked if that was true. Saya replied that she didn't really need them. The seventh holy throne is the privilege of a pure white magician. The girl said that's probably why he has a bunch of trump cards. He's lucky. She got promoted because of her brother. Arthur thought about the fact that she got her class changed to holy throne after hunting him. So it turns out he's the ultimate evil after all. All 7 thrones don't need level up points. His only goal was to eat well and live peacefully. But in that case, the girl might very well reach level 99 at this kind of speed. For fear of being recognized, they speak only in whispers and use objects that make it difficult to recognize. The system has warned that the player is a platinum-level hero. The guy would think it's a big accomplishment with a little bit of his blood, but it seems to have a slightly different meaning. Looking at her brother, the girl said that in truth, she would like to kill him once. After all, she had completed a special quest just by beating him, but what would be the reward if she killed him? Afterwards, she asked her brother if she could kill him just once. The guy asked if she was that immoral. Saya said it's a game. When she gets the reward, she'll divide it according to their contract. Without thinking long, the boy replied that if he had to die one day, he would prefer to die by the hand of his sister. He's just curious too. But how can she laugh so merrily while offering to kill him? The system said that the girl had killed the black bear giant. The dungeon was completely cleared. Her brother ordered her to collect all the items properly. Characteristics: he said he definitely needed to level up because something was missing. He realized that he just needed to kill a few more mobs. The sister said that she would refill the potions and items and then come back. The guy said okay, but asked her not to get into trouble. Then I yelled for her to pick up whatever fell out on the way. The girl replied that it was fine. She would be back soon. Arthur thought that in the meantime, he would kill a few more mobs on his own, so his level would be replenished. Suddenly someone spoke, the absolute heavenly devil. Putting the knife to the guy's throat, he said he was the second elder. His name was Johann. He came to make sure the guy was who he said he was. If he fails, wherever he goes, death awaits him. Because Sarmak will sentence him to death. The system said that of the 12 heavenly devil elders, Johann was the best at launching surprise attacks from hiding. The guy must avoid the second elder's attack and earn his recognition. The guy thought that even though it was about the main subquest, it was also SSS. He feels like he could be in the center of a cataclysm right now. After striking him, his sister took the holy throne. This means that it is very likely that he could be the ultimate evil in this scenario. If all the saints sitting on thrones don't need level up points like the sister, they will grow at a tremendous rate if they have superior abilities. And maybe some of them will even manage to get above level 90. At best, if he has to deal with the saints alone, he'll be balanced getting SSS level quests. Second Elder Johann asked the boy to raise his weapon. Arthur replied that he must know perfectly well that he had no weapons at the moment. Then the guy asked, and why does he have to prove his qualifications to him right now? Second Elder Johann asked what he meant by that. The guy thought great. If the man was just going to kill him, he wouldn't waste time talking about it. After all, this guy is also a loyal elder who wants the revival of the heavenly devil. After which said, as the elder himself sees, there are special restrictions placed on him. Soon the guy will be able to get rid of some of them. Of course, right now he's very weak. Indeed, one could say he is the very embodiment of weakness. That's why it's taking so long for the restrictions to be lifted. And all of them. Haven't they all been waiting a long time for it to appear? Arthur said that if they waited just a little while, the true absolute ruler would appear before them. But why do they, themselves, try not to miss an opportunity to trample the barely swollen seeds? If, because of his impatient temper, he makes a mistake, surely he won't regret it in the future? Also, Arthur thought he had made contact. Now he had to make the final blow. He said sure, the guy might not meet his requirements, but he should know that the guy will soon master the sky-conquering mind technique his teacher bequeathed him, and it's gonna take him 10 minutes to do it all. Second Elder Johann thought the mind technique that conquers the heavens? Is this guy not joking right now? Arthur replied that naturally he could do it, if only the elder would give him some time. Let him prove that his words were not empty words. Johann thought that soon he would see with his own eyes whether he was telling the truth or not. He would shadow him and wait. And then he said he would give him exactly 10 minutes. The guy thought that thank goodness he had managed to buy some time. Experience points are almost accumulated. Just need to go out and defeat a couple of monsters. He didn't care about the allotted 10 minutes. His luck running out would bring all the monsters to him. Arthur pronounced the exit from the dungeon. Once outside, the boy wondered why he didn't see any monsters. Usually he saw bears or skeletons at every turn, but at the right moment they were all blown away. The guy was mentally screaming that the law of meanness had worked there, too. It's damn luck. The system said there was exactly 30 seconds left. Arthur realized that he was gone, and then wondered if he should just fight him once. Then he realized that he wouldn't even be able to detect his presence when he appeared behind him, so he was sure to be defeated. He wondered how else he could buy some more time. The way Johann spoke, he doubted he'd give him another couple of minutes. The guy said he finally got to text his sister. Then he yelled that he'd been running around looking for her. The brother told her it was dangerous out there, not to come any closer. Saya asked what he meant. The girl said she was in an ambush. They all rushed after her. At least he knows how hard she has to work to get away from them now. After which the girl said she didn't understand a damn thing. Why did he tell her to stay away? The guy replied that it would take him a long time to explain, so he let his sister get out of there first. He'll make it up to her later. The system didn't have time to follow his actions and say that the hunt for the black bear giant was over. The experience had reached its limit. His level had been raised. The guy realized that now he was level 40. He needed to activate the skill as soon as possible. The system said that the remaining time was 2 seconds. The system said that the conditions for using the Heaven-Conquering Mind technique had been met. Heaven-Conquering Mind technique is activated. The skill is always active. All stats would increase dramatically, and the domination of the heavenly devil would increase. The guy realized that he was one step away from failure. Everyone under his command could sense his aura. Arthur realized that now even Johann wouldn't be able to put his 5 cents in. The title of Celestial Death Star confirmed. The system said that the ultimate evil was born. The guy thought that, although he had some guesses, it felt strange to be confronted with the truth. Still, his sister is on his side. So I guess you can thank fate that they're fighting 2 against 6. Absolute evil. A man with the power and destiny to destroy world's order. He must have the courage and tenacity to turn everyone in the world into his enemies. The life point recovery rate has been increased due to the effect of the mind-conquering heaven technique. The recharge time of all skills has been reduced by 20%. The guy thought about the fact that he had only activated one single heaven-conquering mind technique and already received such amazing perks. Johann kneeled down and said that he welcomed the Lord. Then he said that for not being able to recognize his Lord, for having doubts in his heart, he asked for forgiveness. Holding out his hand, Arthur said it was all right. If he were in his place, he would have doubted it too. He was glad that Johann recognized him as his lord. The system said that the guy had earned the recognition of Second Elder Johann. The quest to attack the Second Elder had been completed. Arthur thought that great. Now there was only one elder left. Arthur asked his sister ran away. Is everything okay? She said let her forget it. That's not the point. Did the brother see the notice that just arrived? It says the ultimate evil has appeared. The girl said that everyone said that it was necessary to quickly find out who was the ultimate evil. The guy replied that, by the way, thanks to her his characteristics exceeded 100. Saya said she couldn't believe it. He said that from 99 he increased all his stats by 19 points. All because he just did a good job with his fists. The girl yelled that somehow all the stats went up by 19 points and he crossed the 100 milestone. She's so shocked that her heart is about to jump out of her chest, so she'll exit the game first. She realized that even though her brother was out of the norm, it was a bit much, wasn't it? Then she thought, okay, she had an appointment, so she should start packing. When Arthur saw that his sister was offline, he thought that she seemed shocked. How could he tell her that he was the ultimate evil? He realized that one way or another, it was more important to see what the reward was for completing the SSS level quest. Arthur thought that the reward would probably be the entire Sarmak. Johann answered that first of all, he had something to tell the Lord. The boy did not understand that there would be any additional explanations. He said that he wanted to report to him first of all about the current power and status of Sarmak, but it seems that uninvited guests have arrived. Suddenly, pointing his finger at him, a man shouted that the son of a bitch was Ramtadian. Someone could get an unheard-of bounty on his head. Arthur asked, is he up to his old tricks again? Those guys call him Ramtadian every time they see him. Aren't they sick of it yet? Arthur realized that with the activated mind technique, conquering the heavens, he could roughly sense abilities. He didn't understand what they were all talking about. It was the guy's first time encountering knights, but they are so low level. He was even a little disappointed. The man shouted let him suddenly righted himself with his unit, but the guy in the wrong situation. After the blow, Arthur realized that the man had blocked him. The man said that the boy must be tired. After a knockout punch, Arthur replied that he wasn't at all. The system said that he had killed a noble non-player character, and the absolute evil points increased by 2. The guy thought the mind technique was pretty good. A few moves and almost no effort at all. Looking around, he thought, and where was his reward for all the hardship? Suddenly, the guy heard someone say it was just great, turned around and yelled, who else is there? Tell them to come out now. Arthur asked, is he there to kill him too? Another bounty hunter? Said he looked a little like one. The man replied that he was not a hunter, but that he would kill him and make him his slave. Then Rafindel appeared before the boy's eyes. Calling Arthur a crazy bastard, Rafindel told him they hadn't seen each other in a long time. Then he shouted that he'd told him the guy was screwed now. The man replied that it was great that they would have all those dead bodies as a nice bonus. If the boy became his slave, he would be very kind to him. He immediately ordered all the dead soldiers to get up. Arthur asked what was this, necromancy or something? Guy thought it looked like this man had a hidden class. Usually, unlike the undead, such are brought back to life with their memories and egos. It might be undead, but even with mind techniques conquering the heavens, their abilities were definitely not measurable. He knew there had to be something out there. The man started screaming that the man was Ramtadian. The power of darkness has descended upon him. Now he dare not do anything. Let him die right now. Suddenly, Arthur didn't realize what had happened. The system said that he satisfied the conditions for the manifestation of the title effect Absolute Evil. The guy can powerfully control all products of black magic. A powerful aura of mind techniques conquering the heavens confronts the necromancer. The energy of the mind technique is very strong against black magic products. The man didn't understand why they weren't listening to him. Arthur realized that this was a body-snatching skill, akin to the ability to steal. Turning to the boys, he asked if they would listen to him. The guy said they pissed him off, so let them die back. Rafindel didn't understand how. Since the situation was turning out that way, should he listen to him too? Turning to Rafindel, the boy asked if he was also an imp. He answered that he was not, and then asked what he wanted. Arthur replied that from the outside, it looked like he would listen to him too. He then ordered him to do 10 jumps with his arms out to the side, each looking at a man. Arthur asked how old he was. Someone replied that he couldn't say. Arthur replied that he was undead in his hands. What should he do with him now? For his information, the guy only kills those who attack him first, and he hasn't struck yet. The man asked then, can he be free? Arthur replied that okay, he could walk. In a second, he had time to thank the guy and get out of sight. Turning to Arthur, the boy said he knew all along that this was all a joke. He had no choice but to run away from that damn necromancer. Arthur asked if he betrayed him, would he die on the spot? Rafindel replied that of course, he doesn't know betrayal even under threat of death. The boy realized that he might not even buy a pet to collect items. The girl thought that this guy's strength was really on another level. She really didn't want to die, and was so glad he'd let her live. She just didn't understand why the hell his necromancy techniques were stronger than hers. Could that man be the one her mentor spoke of? One day the one and only ruler will come to rule that world. She must help him overcome all adversity and conquer the continent. She should have caught him instead of running. A man like that could have gotten a clue without even trying. Johann told the Lord that there were things he hadn't told him yet, would start at the beginning. Arthur told Johann to finish quickly, before someone else showed up for him. Johann gave detailed information about the Sarmak faction. They now had 2 S-class assassins capable of killing even the highest-ranking knights of the Empire, can kill 20 Class A people, 100 Class B people, and starting with Class C no limit at all. Even now, at this point, many people are trying to get into Sarmak and dying in the competition. Also, Sarmak has ties to the power brokers of the empire, involved in various financial interests, being associated with high-ranking nobles rather than low-ranking nobles like barons. Funds accumulated over 30 years of operation. Sarmak's operating fund is 2 billion and Johan's personal fund is 4 billion. Total 6 billion gold. And all this, destined for the absolute ruler. The guy thought, wow, his personal $6 billion. Arthur said he understands his loyalty. First of all, let him make sure that the 2 billion won in the operating fund is kept as it is. I am as before, Sarmak is on it, there is no one more qualified, so he will lead it. Arthur thought he'd figure out what kind of place it was, because he'd have to be able to maintain it too. Also, he said that the 4 billion they gave him would not only go to the Sarmak, but also to the Heavenly Devil Village. Everything will be used for the revival and development of the Heavenly Devil. Johann bowed and said that he would follow the Lord wherever he went. The boy was glad that Sarmak was in his hands, so that his quests and his life were getting better. Turning to the Lord, the boy said there was something else. He said that the third elder Rexer was very dangerous. Johann warned the Lord, but Rexer is different compared to him. He will attack without warning and even more deadly. Arthur asked if he was a murderer too. Johann answered that he is. Rexer is the head of the Black Colors. Looking into the system, the guy saw that the owner of the first and second thrones had been confirmed. He figured whoever's on it, let them attack. The seventh throne is his little sister, and he's got Sarmak in his hands. The boy heard his sister's voice. He asked, is the meeting over already? Was it because of the busy first and second thrones? Saya replied that it's not that. It was really important. She had recently met a close friend there. Sitting at the table, the girl shouted to her friend Siesong that she was there. When she saw her, she asked her if she was here. Then she asked how long Saya had been waiting. As they approached their table, the guy said she was his ideal, then asked if the girl could give his number. Siesong apologized and said she wasn't interested. She didn't understand how she could call someone she was seeing for the first time her ideal and ask for his phone number. The girl said she can't stand those who try to get close based on looks alone. Saya replied that she was just beautiful, that you could fall in love with her at first sight. Then she said that she should let her friend confess for an hour. She still had a fear of men, right? The girl replied that she had absolutely no such problem. What kind of fear attack? Never had one before. A friend said she was even called the Ice Princess at the academy. If anyone I know saw her now, they'd be shocked. The girl asked how her friend was doing lately. Siesong replied that she would only share it with her. After the story, the girl said she was right to tell her. She thanked her friend for listening to her. Saying goodbye, the girl shouted for her friend to return home safely. Saya replied that she should be careful too. The girl didn't expect to be told something like this. What should she do? Should she do something as soon as possible? She decided that first she should get in touch with her brother. Arthur said something very important had been shared with her. So immediately after the meeting she ran to campus and sent him a message. The sister was afraid that someone might overhear, so she rushed home to have a quiet conversation with no eyes or ears to hear. She said that's exactly what it was, Saya said honestly, but the information she received was unknown to a single soul. Could anyone have guessed that she would hear about absolute evil from her friend? To summarize, so far it has been known that absolute evil must fight the saints alone, but there are classes among the players that support absolute evil. And as he realized, her close friend, whom she's known for a long time, has a hidden class designed to support absolute evil. The girl said yes. The brother said that his sister had indeed obtained very valuable information, then asked if it was okay to tell him such important information that her friend had shared with her in confidence. The girl replied that they were soulmates, so her friend told her everything. But since the brother is the ultimate evil, he should naturally know about it. He immediately started to say he didn't understand what his sister was talking about. Exhaling, she said she was just pretending not to know so he could tell her. A guy had been training for 20 years in some strange place, then suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Black monsters appeared in every place he went, and it's important to note that she took the seventh throne after she attacked it. The girl isn't so stupid that she can't compare all these facts, is she? It wasn't that she didn't understand the situation he was in, but she was still a little upset. The guy realized he had nothing to say to her. Arthur replied that he assumed his sister would find out sooner or later. The sister asked if the boy didn't realize how stupid he looked. By the way, of course, She didn't tell her friend that he was the ultimate evil. She didn't tell her friend that he was the ultimate evil. He himself is well aware that if their information is released, their identities could be stolen, and then all efforts would be for naught. This situation, where the whole world turned out to be their enemy, because despite the fact that she is a saint, they are on the same side with him. After all, the girl has already become his accomplice. The guy should meet her friend too. He thought that if it was true, he wouldn't have to fight the 7 saints alone from the beginning, would he? His sister told him that Siesong was 19 years old. She had dropped out of the academy to study necromancy and was now at level 14. The girl thinks he better use the mask from now on. If he is absolute evil, then he should hide from the Empire and alliances. Arthur thought it might be wise to be more cautious, considering how much attention he'd already attracted. He couldn't imagine finding a player who had become a necromancer at the age of 19. The guy realized that Rafindel was level 50. There was simply no way he could be captured by a level 14 necromancer. Even if it was a hidden class, it was impossible, period. Seeing the girl, Arthur asked, was it her? The absolute necromancy machine? The girl asked, so it was about him. Was the uncle an acquaintance of her friend? The guy asked, what kind of uncle? Does he look like a stunted old man? The girl then asked how should she address him? He replied that she could address him as soon as she wished. Then I realized she was a girl. But the way she spoke last time didn't sound like a girl at all. Seo-sung replied that she had her own reasons. Covering her face with her hands, she said that since she was a necromancer, she thought she should use a low voice. She didn't talk like that in real life. Looking at them, Seiya asked, do they know each other? Was she the only one who didn't know about it? The brother replied that they had crossed paths once. Now he knows who his opponent was. Siesong replied, how amazing is it? Isn't it fate? Her friend said that the uncle related to absolute evil is a very important person to her. She wondered if he was the ultimate evil. But far more importantly, how did they meet in the first place? Arthur replied that he really is the ultimate evil. And Seiya said that she's like the younger sister of this uncle, and is also the 7th saint. The girl began to ask how could her friend keep something like this from her? Why share such important information only now? Seiya replied that whatever it was her brother's private information. She apologized for not telling, and for revealing the fact that she was a saint. She turned away and said that he was her best friend's brother, too. She should have dressed better for such a meeting. The friend asked if it was that important. Turning to Arthur, the girl said that she usually looked very different. She paid a lot of attention to her appearance and never spoke in a tone like that. The guy thought about the fact that although his sister said she was a very beautiful girl, but he only sees a small child. Turning to her, he asked, realizing that wasn't the most important thing right now, right? Did she say she was supposed to be the ultimate evil? Did she get a quest too? The girl replied that it was exactly like that. Let her look at the scroll first. It was a legacy left by her teacher. When Arthur looked at it, he said it looked like a map. The girl said it was an inheritance left by her teacher. The boy realized that the map drawing and the marked destination were the same as the ones he had gotten from his teacher. Just looking at it, the connection to absolute evil is clear. We can assume it's related to the quest tied to the mind technique, conquering the heavens. But the decisive thing is that drawing in the corner, it's clearly a sign of his technique. It's a pattern that symbolizes it, the black flame. The boy realized that the appearance of this sign could not be a coincidence. The girl wondered, so is this true? Players who got SSS-level quests to help absolute evil? There was no way she was going to fight the saints alone, she thought. First of all, it is a class that aids absolute evil, and that they are weak before absolute evil. Then it comes out that they are the minions of absolute evil. Arthur replied that he understood. The girl's strength really is absolutely wazoo. He suggested to start moving for now. Se-sung asked where to. The boy replied that he'd heard from his sister that she was level 14. Looks like it's time to level up. Using a lightning strike, the girl easily handled the black bear giant's hunt. After killing the black bear, Rafindel immediately, as Arthur's pet, ran after the artifacts. The guy didn't understand what had happened to him. He had become an artifact-collecting pet. But still, that crazy guy has such excellent skills. Healing, buffs, leveling up, and definitely its own rewards. Did he just think this was a life well lived? Arthur asked what the girl's level was now. After she said 19, he said he was going to go beat someone else up. Seiya asked if the girl still hunted alone. She said yes, because she didn't have much control over her skills yet. The guy realized that her appearance was a bit clumsy, and she didn't know how to fight. The girl said that the undead were fighting for her. She would show him now. Fraudulent ability. Extend the skill to all of them. Siesong said that in essence, the summoned undead were much stronger than the normal undead. Boy, did the guy realize that besides, the summoning limit is just the amount of magic power of the character himself. The whole thing is too much compared to normal necromancers. He realized that now he must probe the Empire's savvy. Now that the elders can't act freely and attract players, undead is a very good trump card that allows you to wage a quantitative war. In this situation, the girl is the best ally. Currently, Siesong's quest is this task of exploring the same ruins that he needs to explore as well, who had to start at level 40 because he had to learn the mind-conquering heaven technique. The girl could play right after level 20. This quest was left by none other than his mentor. So it's definitely going to be a hell of a challenge. If one acts alone, there could be problems. In retrospect, Arthur is actually glad they joined. Unlike in the game, his luck in real life had not suffered. She hugged Arthur and shouted that she had leveled up. Now she was already level 20. Thanks to him, she was growing so fast. The guy said that now that the girl had reached level 20, the quest would begin. The goal is Mount Carganus on the continent of Runia. The girls won't get caught, so have them go through the Imperial Teleporter. If they can, have them go ahead and gather information. And he and his pet Rafindle Chowsite, they'll catch up with them through the Union Teleporter. After that, the boys split up. Turning to the master, Rafindle asked if it would work. They're both full how after all. The guy replied that it wouldn't work, there was nothing to be done. So they were moving out. Traveling by ships and airships costs little, but takes too much time. In addition, various unforeseen situations may arise during the movement, so teleport is the best option. However, the teleporters the Empire runs are cheap and few in number, so they are all known to the recount. Unfortunately, the Chowsite can't even use them. Most of the remaining teleports are run by a federation with full powers. In fact, large unions tend to monopolize management. The girl immediately asked the captain to take a look. He asked what was the matter. She replied that a Chowsite was approaching. The captain saw that there were even two of them, whereupon he said he would stay and let them come in. The leader of the teleport control group said they had great guests. Rufindel told the guy he thought there would be no problem. Vladika replied that it should be fine. Just let him do as he said. The guy said it's their teleporter that takes you north of the Carganus Mountains, on the continent of Runia. Seeing the blue hair, the boy asked if he was Rafindel. Had he brought a minion with him? Suddenly, Rafindel replied that he had acquired him to pick up the falling objects. The elder had ordered him to do so, so he would not contradict himself later. The guy asked to collect items? Why didn't he take someone more suitable? This one looks like a tiny level. Rafindel asked what did he care? It's none of his business if he's tiny level, dirty, or whatever. The guy said okay, forget it. Anyway, they know the regular price tag doesn't apply to full how, right? He said the price for Chowsites like them was 30 million gold each. Rafindel said, what the hell is this nonsense? The guy replied that if they didn't like it, the way out was over there. Let them use the cheap Imperial portal. The boy thought that Rafindel knew perfectly well that there was no other way. He shouted, where did you see that? Do I have to pay 30 million for bus fare too? Arthur thought now he's using a low-level gimmick. Will he raise the price a little more? Suddenly he heard a whisper. The guy asked if he'd had enough of this nasty pet life. He doesn't know how it happened, but he can help him if he does as the guy says. Arthur thought this is what he was like, the leader of a big alliance. He wondered if it would happen, but he didn't expect him to bite so easily. He immediately made a pitiful face and started saying please let him do something. If only he could get out of that doggy pet life. The girls were happy that they had finally arrived. Seo-sung said that the teleporter was so fast. She wondered how the uncle was doing. She had heard that ordinary teleporters extort a lot of money from Full How and sometimes followed it up by giving it to them. The girl replied that she shouldn't let him worry. Se-sung asked nothing she keeps calling him uncle? Honestly, don't think he's really an uncle. Seiya replied that she could call him whatever she wanted. It didn't matter. After apologizing to the girl, the friend said that they seemed to be in a lot of trouble right now. The girl said she was looking at the map and didn't know where to go. Seiya replied that it's okay. She knows the way. His current level is 40 and a half. This is a low level for a battle with the leader of the Hellenic Alliance. The reason why he performs his so-called favorite job as the leader of the teleport control group. Because his aunt was one of Alan's board members. Eve life was truly a win-win situation. Starting with Ellen, regardless of talent and ability, he always had good positions and quick promotions. He lived his life thinking that having good parents and relatives was entirely his ability. What a naive loser. He seems to take his word for it. The guy lives, don't know the future of being taken advantage of and living in the gutter. That's what he probably thinks of him. How obvious. Arthur immediately told Rafindle that he was now trying to give it to him, talking the guy into a deal. He told me to pretend nothing was going on. First, let him say he was going to teleport, and then let him win a reprieve, order him to dump 60 million gold. Then, as soon as they leave the safe zone of the teleporter, Arthur will strike. Rafindle asked him what was going to kill him. The guy replied that he had one good skill that did 0 damage, but first he needed to run a teleporter. He thought that could it be said that 0 damage was a good skill? Rafindle immediately asked the pet for 60 million gold. The system warned that they were leaving the safe zone. Eve told him to launch an attack. Just let it make a ruckus. Arthur told Rafindle to stand by. He started yelling that he wasn't going to bend under him anymore today. Then he whispered for him to act surprised and angry. After the alleged blow, Rafindle asked how dare he? He whispered that he was about to strike. The guy had put a buff on him, so let him fight heartily. The man said that just in case, have them put anti-magic on him, so he wouldn't use the surge. Eve thought it looked like Rafindle had taken 60 million gold from him. This guy served as his warehouse, conveniently enough. Then he said that was the end of his role. He realized that this guy was also a full house, 100% chance of dropping items. The attacker yelled for Arthur to die. From the blow he had received, Eve didn't realize what else it was. What was wrong with his fist? Was that guy really a martial artist? He realized that his stamina wasn't reduced because of something like this. There was no notification that he had been debuffed. Was the guy still reading his agility characteristics and not his attack? There was no way he could explain it otherwise. Arthur realized that he hadn't changed the skill settings. Eve asked how dare he hit him. Without thinking, the guy replied that he hit first. Is Eve allowed and he's not allowed? Rafindle was taking on everyone. The boy realized that with his specialty of one-on-one fights, he had won a 5-on-1 fight. The kid yelled to the older guy that his buff was awesome. He'll be rubbing his shoes for the rest of his life. Once a brother forever. Then he realized the owner wasn't done yet. Rafindle asked why he was still alive. Arthur replied that if he killed him, nothing would come out of him. At that moment, the boy realized that they were not in a quarrel. Eve realized that if he died like that, he could face personnel action from internal audit. He asked them to stop and said he'd give them 60 million. Arthur ordered Rafindle to hit with all his might, said he was keeping an eye on his skills. The boy asked how much his life was worth. He realized this was his chance to prove his loyalty and respect to the boy. Rafindle would show him the skills he developed during his life in Chowsite mode. Eve raised the bet to 70 million. After raising the price to 100 million gold pieces, Rafindle asked the owner if it would be all right. After a short thought, Arthur replied that 130 million. Rafindle asked the bastard who dared to stab them in the back. Taking into account all the compensation for the moral damage he had suffered, he should receive 130 million gold. Eve said okay, he's willing to give them 130 million gold pieces. Just have the guys take him to a safe zone. Rafindle asked if it was a safe zone. He replied that he didn't know. He was still out of his mind, so he just decided to kill. Eve immediately showed them a bag of money. The guy thought what a shame those bastards were, but just to get out of there alive. Arthur said these types are very bad. They're corrosive to society. May their justice finally be served. Without thinking long, the boy ordered Rafindle to kill him now. He replied that he would be done, become an apostle of justice. He realized that the Lord's meanness was out of line. Normally, when so much is taken away, life is preserved. But murder, without thinking long, Rafindle shouted that let them endure at least one blow, not die immediately. The boy realized that he had killed him with one blow after all. He wondered if the object would fall out. An object appeared in front of his eyes. Eve shouted that if they returned it, he would give them 1 billion, immediately giving them 1 billion gold. Rafindle came to the elder and said he had done it. Arthur asked what was that sack in his hands. Rafindle replied that he fell out of that type. then told that the guy promised 1 billion, but he ignored it. Taking the sack in his hands, Arthur tiredly wondered what was in there. Looking in, they couldn't believe their eyes. Sure, the guy thought he could benefit, but he didn't have much confidence in that captain. He thought it wasn't the most important issue. The guy thought that there would be something worthwhile there, since he was offered to give 1 billion gold pieces. But there are only a few unique items in the bag, and that's only 500 million at most. Even if you add it all up, it's hardly 1 billion gold pieces. Maybe we're talking about smuggling? Arthur thought it probably didn't matter anymore. The guy said that 30 million gold pieces were being given to the pet as a reward. Rafindel thanked his master, and then said that he was ready to shine his shoes for the rest of his life. Arthur said he was off, would contact him when he got back from the continent of Runia. Guy wished him a good trip, said that in the meantime he would work on raising his level. Walking up to the girls, the guy said he was looking to see if everyone had gotten there without any problems. Se-sung replied that thanks to her friend, they had reached their destination without losing their way. Arthur replied that it was fine, and then asked if they had been able to find out anything. The girl replied that they had some information. She told me that there's a rumor going around amongst the non-player characters. They say that somewhere in the neighborhood, from time to time, a monster of incredible strength appears. Even the level 50 team that entered the forest because of the quest was completely wiped out. The sheer disaster. The guy thought that he didn't remember that Valimpomania or the community had said anything about it. He replied that he should go and hit him, and then we'll see. My sister said his buff is really great. Others don't go there because the location is too difficult to get through, so they are all alone. Arthur replied that they were doing great too. Not everything is good at hunting, even having a couple of buffs on hand. He said she turns them undead every time she hunts. Why do so many summons? Isn't she wasting mana? Seo-sung replied that she still had a good amount of mana. The more mana she had, the better, right? Looking at them, the guy thought that if you add in the undead in the shadows, he'd have about 200 heads. That's a real cheater class. The girl told the uncle that they had already arrived. The guy asked her if she knew how to use maps. The girl replied that without a doubt, it is definitely there. Seo-sung said that it was a steep cliff. The boy thought that they shouldn't say that they had to climb up to the top. He turned to his sister and said that she had a flight spell, right? The girl replied that this was an area where it was forbidden to use flight spells. Arthur thought, what do we have to do? Climb the cliff ourselves? At that moment the girl shouted for them all to look up immediately, to raise their heads. The boys saw the cruel Korea. Korea is the lord of the Korganu Mountains. Sometimes when hunting monsters, a shiny stone appears. When Korea eats it, he immediately becomes stronger and purer. Korea think humans are weak, and humans have shiny things that are delicious, too. Arthur ordered both girls to step back. Looking up, he asked if that thing was a chicken. Among the recently obtained items, there is one suitable one. At that moment, the bird grabbed the boy and flew into the sky. Calling the bird a bastard, Arthur asked, daring to look at him with such disdain. Let them just look at that leg of chicken. He said that if the bird could take the blow, he would keep it alive. He lowered the damage level for an unusually powerful fist. As soon as the guy wanted to strike, the bird immediately let him go. Grabbing its paw, he asked where the bird was going. Arthur says he's had a good run, so let him live. In return, let him be his pet. Then he said he wanted to stretch his knuckles first. The guy said it shouldn't hurt as much as the first time. The system says the monster's will is unable to resist. He can use the tamer ring. The guy remembered the piece of equipment he had gotten the other day while doing justice, after which he decided to use it there. It was a piece of equipment called a tamer's ring. Putting the ring on his finger, Arthur shouted that he was now his bird. The system said that taming was affected by the caster's class and intelligence. The system said that taming monsters can be checked using the pet list command. Arthur said that taming was a breeze. Sia-song told her uncle that it turns out he has so many talents. Looking at her brother, the girl asked him what is the taming skill? Arthur said that he had gotten the taming equipment a few days ago. Saya told her that this is what golden spoons use when practicing low-level taming, but she's not sure what his machinations even have. The guy never expected to see a real Rufindel on his pet list. By the way, this chicken turns out to be S rank. In addition, it feeds on blue stones and gold coins. Arthur had heard that Korea's Monster Master Wyvern was also S rank, but the prices to buy it were just beyond heavenly. The guy was thinking whether to breed this bird or not. Turning to the bird, Arthur asked him if he understood what the guy was saying. Showing him the money, the guy said he understood everything, but pretended not to. The guy asked if he liked it. The truth is, it all belongs to Arthur. If he obeys him from now on, it will all belong to him. The system said that the pet's nickname was confirmed as Coco. Arthur said that taming pets is really a cakewalk. Flying on a bird. The girls were pleased at how fast it was. Saya said that thanks to Coco, they could go anywhere comfortably. Arthur said the map clearly shows this place. No matter how hard the guy looks, he can't see the entrance anywhere. Seo-sung asked if he was able to find out the exact location. The guy is very strong, so if he destroys that mountain, would he be able to find the answer? Arthur replied that although he was strong, he had no mining skills, and the system itself did not welcome the complete destruction of the terrain. The girl said that just in case, she had the kids downstairs hitting the rock, but a message popped up saying they didn't meet the conditions. Arthur ordered everyone to hold on tightly to Coco. He asked the bird to fly at full speed over the cliff. The boy wondered if that was the only thing. Would the entrance really only open like this? The system said that a strong attack had been confirmed, encased within the energy of the mind technique, conquering the heavens. The conditions for opening the Cliff of Ages have not yet been met. The guy didn't understand what it was. The system said that the sacrifice required 200 monsters inhabiting the city. The guy realized that if it was not possible to sacrifice 200 monster heads within 5 minutes, would the quest be destroyed? As suddenly, a hidden class of absolute necromancer came into his mind, aiding absolute evil. Looking down, the boy thought, what if those creatures were also useful? Turning to the girl, he asked if there were 200 monster heads downstairs. She replied that no. You can see with the naked eye that there are even more. The girl said that there were 286 monsters down there. Seo-sung said that whether it's 200 or 286, he saw the requirement, right? You have to sacrifice 200 monster heads. The girl doesn't agree. The girl talked about how they were very dear. Arthur asked, can she communicate with the undead? Do they say they don't want to? Seo-sung replied that that wasn't the case. Saya wondered if her friend had sobbed. She wasn't the type to sob over something like that, was she? The guys asked her to think hard. Arthur told me that she was already in the same boat as them, and hadn't she forgotten what her mentor had told her? Let it rise to the position of being above darkness and below one. Now this is the first step on this path. If it fails, it is finished. The girl replied that she understood that too, but using them as a sacrifice was so cruel. Arthur said that no matter how strong he was, did he think he would be able to bring down and defeat 200 heads of monsters now? The girl understood perfectly well that the uncle's words were true, but he was suggesting that she sacrifice those little ones with her own hands? Her soul is torn apart just like that. Why does her gut instinct keep her from doing this? The guy only speculated, but it seems one of the side effects of the hidden class is developing a close bond with the undead. The sister said that the girl did not usually behave like that. Perhaps she had some reasons of her own. The boy replied that there was nothing to be done. However, they had no other choice. He said that if she wasn't going to help them, their paths would part there too. He would not cooperate with someone who was stuck in their own thoughts and unable to do what was required of them. Not anymore. She has to make up her mind. Either she sacrifices them and stays with them, or she goes her own way. Realized that she should go along with her uncle. Seo-sung replied that it was fine. She would make the sacrifice. The guy said that this decision was not easy for her, but he is grateful. The girl said that being an absolute necromancer, she sacrifices 200 heads of undead. The system said it was a basic healing skill. The guy realized that it seemed to be a side effect of the hidden class. Let him be patient for a while. The system said that an important decision was made for the greater good. They respect the ultimate necromancer for making a great decision while enduring the pain of heartbreak. 200 undead heads consumed as a sacrifice to open the Cliff of Ages. Calming the girl down, he said that she really had a hard time. Should he use the healing skill again? Seo-sung replied that she was fine. The girl thought it was amazing, and the characteristics had also increased significantly. Grabbing her brother, the girl began to shout that just let him see how pale his friend is. Now she feels that everything is safely resolved, because she listened to her uncle's words. The system said that the gate of the Cliff of Ages had been replaced by a Celt heritage. The guy told the girls they have no idea what lies ahead. Tell everyone to be extra careful. He said it looked like an underground cave. Then he asked if everything was all right. Looking around, the girl asked if this was the right location. The brother replied that it had been said about the Celts' heritage. Even if he tried hard to forget, he wouldn't be able to. Arthur told me that the mentor who taught him was called Celt. Since it was a legacy left by that vile old man, there was a good chance they were going to go through hell. The system said it was checking to see if they were eligible to receive Celt's legacy. Absolute evil must destroy the 7 holy thrones. Therefore, absolute evil needs powerful helpers. All 3 powerful helpers are being tested. If he fails to get the consent of the assistants, his account will be irrevocably deleted. Arthur realized that the quest was designed with the assumption that it was impossible to take a step back. The training the guy had spent 20 years doing. The meeting with the heavenly devil elders, it was all one big scenario. Everything is straight to the point, and essentially, it's about one of Olympus' main scenarios. From the very beginning, he had nowhere to retreat to, nor did he intend to. Even Olympus is just a game, and he'll make a complete sweep with it. The guy said they don't know what might come their way. They could be in danger. Then he asked the sister if she'd gotten the notice to become a deputy. Saya replied that it came to a point she went there, trusting him completely, so she gives her consent. Looking at the second girl, the guy asked if she got the notice too. Seo-sung replied that she was also willing to be his assistant. While watching his pet Coco, the guy emptied out a bag of coins. He said there were 8 million gold coins, and then asked Coco if he would obey him, right? The system congratulated the boy. His right to enter the Celt legacy was confirmed. The portal to the Celt legacy test has been prepared. Arthur says he has no idea what clues they'll get, but he confirms the entrance. The man said he thought the situation could be resolved without too much fuss. From now on, let him be careful not to be too greedy. Calling them damned beggars, Eve shouted how dare they deceive him, Rufindel and the scum staggering along with him. Who would have thought it would turn out to be Ramtadian? Now he knew it was Ramtadian, so he was even glad of this coincidence. The guy touched someone he shouldn't have. Already over 700 people have asked to share the quest. He must capture him alive and return the bag. Eve's phone rang. Picking up the phone, he asked what was wrong. The guy said he saw that a man had posted a quest for Ramtadian and decided to call him. He talked about becoming the one to occupy the first holy throne. Luckily, he succeeded, so he could help him get revenge. Said he'd catch Ramtadian and bring it to him. The voice said that the boy had entered Celt's test area. Looking around, Arthur said, so from there, they'll be traveling to the target separately? Hopefully, everyone would get through the test safely. Looking at the huge bird in front of him, the boy thought, is this the teacher's verification test? The system said that the hunt for the 3-legged crow was successful. He got 90,000 gold coins. The experience had reached its limit. Looking at the crow, the boy said it was weaker than he thought. It was the same 3-legged crow he had seen in the line special zone. The current encounter suddenly reminded him of the old days. The boy remembered his teacher's words about being strong. This is the path to becoming the strongest ruler in the world. 20 years ago, his nature was filled with one single thought, to make the guy the perfect ultimate evil. Nevertheless, if it was that difficult, everyone would be able to handle the sweep without a problem. The system says he's been upgraded. Using a lightning strike, the girl was successful in hunting the giant bat. Her level had been raised as well. Xie-song stood aside while her servants hunted the knights. Her level had been raised as well. The girl immediately summoned the undead to her side. The girl thought a death knight sounded so cool. It was great that she had gotten there. She would always listen to the uncle's words from now on. Coco had a successful hunt for a poisonous earthworm. As a reward, the bird received a blue stone. After gathering everyone in one place, the system announced that Celt's verification test had been successfully completed. Artur said he was watching, and everyone made it through the challenge safely. The girls said that it was cool, because they had gone up one more level. The system said that the main test prepared by Celt was opening. The guy immediately told everyone not to relax too much. He told the girls that they might be separated again, as they had done earlier. Don't let them panic. Suddenly he heard a voice. It was great that his student could get there. The master said that the fact that he is there speaks to his becoming a great absolute evil. Se-sung asked if it was a hologram. Arthur replied that it was. They were now seeing a hologram of his late teacher. The man said that he was able to get to such heights because of his plan. He was the one who recognized his talent and trained the kid. The kid said he thought they'd never see each other again. What was he going to tell him now? The teacher asked the boy if he had already been recognized by the elders to some extent. He knew that he was not wrong about him, because he has the ability to carry everything he needs to the heavenly devil's lair. Without this ability, everyone in the village would have starved to death long ago. Let his disciple lead them to the light. If he succeeds, the heavenly devil will live again. And the teacher has no doubt that one day he will overcome everything and conquer the continent. The guy thought of updating the quest. Now everything was crystal clear. The SSS class quest, the absolute evil title, and the main scenario. All of this will be merged together. The path he must follow from now on is to get rid of the Earth's empire that currently holds hegemony over the continent and create the heavenly devil world. And he must stay there until that child comes to help him. The teacher has no idea whether it will take a day or 50 years, for that child is not his student. Only a child with a pure and innocent soul can gain such an ability, a powerful talent that can handle all corpses. If that child meets him, he will make a great contribution to the conquest of the world. Anyway, wishes him luck in his wait. The system told the guy to wait for the arrival of a special class of absolute necromancer, conditions being checked. The sister asked if they should stay and wait. Arthur replied that not really. If we're talking about an absolute necromancer, it's Song after all. Is there anyone else besides her? The system confirmed the presence of an absolute necromancer. The girls were glad they had gone there all together. Arthur thought that although he was glad it was over so quickly, the place was made in such a way that the girl couldn't have gotten there on her own, no matter how much time she spent trying to get in. The guy would obviously spend his life there, rotting away like a forgotten plant. The system said Kelt's legacy quest was complete. The guy thought the reward was amazing. The redstone? It's worth 500 million won. He won't have to worry about money for a while. Plus, he's got 2 boost points and 20 characterization points. And he's got 20 points to invest. The sister immediately began to tell Arthur that she had received the red stone. The guy replied that it belonged to her. A girl shouldn't share it with anyone. Saya asked her friend if she got the red stone as a reward too. The girl replied that no, she didn't get it. But she told me that in return, she was given a boost and unlimited mana. So now she had another good skill to add to her piggy bank. She said it's a reduction in life point expenditure when she summons the undead. Right now, the reduction in consumption is about 50%, but if she continues to raise her level, it will reach 100. The guy thought that even though she was saying it like it was nothing, but in fact, the girl was already capable of controlling an army of undead without spending any life points. The system said that Coco's rank was increasing and evolving. Looking at him, the guy said, "What does that mean? He's getting a reward this way?" He thought that from the way Coco flaunted himself in front of the ladies, it was clearly a male. Arthur realized he'd been distracted, and it was time to get back to his bonus performance points. He needed 20 points to improve his mind technique, and the reward came in handy. In any case, its base characteristics are currently locked to allocate points between them. No matter how you look at it, the reward was clearly prepared to improve the technique of the mind conquering the skies. First, Holy Throne told the guy that during their hunt, the guy's trail went missing somewhere in that area. It's only a matter of time before they find him. They don't care how strong Ramtadian is. There's no way he can escape from such a trap. Suddenly, they all saw something coming out of the rock above. They saw that it was a huge bird, and Ramtadian was on it. At that moment, the guy realized that he had pumped up the characteristics again. His sister asked him why he was so happy. Arthur answered that he just managed to raise the characteristics a little more. Seosung asked seriously, but weren't his stats originally high? He said that it was, but after passing the test, it was raised by another 10 units. The girl began to say that when the characteristics are approaching the number 70, to raise them by 1 unit, you need to spend 5 points. Does he have any characteristics that have already passed the 100-unit mark? The system said they'd cleaned up more Celtic heritage. Arthur said it looked like they were done there. The final prerequisite for passing Celtic Legacy was the enhancement of the mind-conquering heaven technique by a player recognized as the ultimate evil. Arthur said they'd sorted out the quest. Now maybe it was time to take a brief look at headquarters? Suddenly his sister told him to look down. Lowering his gaze downward, he asked what's up there? Could it be bounty hunters? Why are they crowded up there? Then I realized that the whole quest for Ramtadian was now in full swing. In a whisper, the sister asked what to do. Wouldn't it be better to just run away? The boy replied that maybe that would be the right thing to do. Suddenly, Suk appeared behind the boy. Calling the boy Ramtadian, he said he was glad to meet him. Arthur immediately ordered the girls to put on their robes and not to move. The guy said he's been pretty good at running from the law so far, but today will be the date of his death. Watching him, people said it was crazy to see him floating in the sky. Now Ramtadian is definitely finished. Looking around, the boy thought it was great that all the cameras were pointed at him. If he could get the Ramtadian quickly, he would make a lasting impression on the public, and then he would have the favor of both player and non-game characters in his pocket. He apologized to Arthur, then said he had to defeat him. Now that the world forces had all their attention on his person, he would definitely defeat the absolute evil lurking somewhere on the continent and make the Divine Star the strongest big alliance in the world. The elimination of Ramtadian is the event that will be the starting point for this journey. Suk said that if he had seen the news, he should know that the guy is the director of the Divine Star Alliance, and seated on the first holy throne is a purple gladiator. The guy recommends him not to put up useless resistance. He didn't even have time to speak before Coco grabbed him and threw him back a few meters. The people downstairs didn't realize what they just saw. Did this guy really take a bite out of a pet? Is there really such a strong pet? Suk doesn't understand what's going on. That monster has a level 70? The guy was too careless. Nevertheless, it wasn't a level he couldn't handle. Arthur asked the purple gladiator they're still alive. We'll only say one phrase. If he doesn't hit first, the guy won't touch him. The guy thought he'd try to swing his fists anyway, since things had turned out this way. Suk told the guy that he'd pissed him off, so they'd finish him off right away. Eve replied that all he'd been talking about a few minutes ago was getting arrested. He said he was just giving him notice. The reality is that even the leader of the Grand Alliance, Ellen, cannot contradict his words. The guy shouted that someone out there was too arrogant. He would show him the power of the first holy throne, the power to deal with more than just some lousy pawn. Saya asked her brother if they could fight too. With their help, he would defeat him much faster. Arthur said no, let them stay out of it. Their faces might be hidden under their robes and their presence barely perceptible, but there was no denying such things as their atmosphere. They could be tracked right away, especially a sister occupying the seventh holy throne. It was still too dangerous to engage in this kind of fight. Arthur himself has changed dramatically. This is a situation where the director of a large union is attacked, but he doesn't feel the least bit intimidated. The boy replied that he would see how long he could be so bold. Arthur thought that he had heard somewhere that Suk was a very proud guy. If he killed him, would he essentially be declaring war on the Divine Star? Razum is the ultimate evil. He's going to have to cross swords with him one day anyway. The girls told him that the perimeter of coverage was too large for evasion. Let him be careful. The guy replied that he had everything under control. He realized that Bastard was weaker than he was. Now, make him totally evil. He won't run away again. The system says the fire armor is broken. The special skill of the spirit necklace, spirit protection, has been activated. The Repethan pendant heals its wearer. The ring of Garshin creates a barrier that protects its wearer. Arthur was surprised that he had survived, though it was clear at a glance that he could defeat him with just his characteristics. The boy was curious to see his skills after all. Suk shouted that he was pretty good. The guy realized that he was being reckless. He should be on guard. Arthur asked, is this really all that the first holy throne can do? He's like the director of the Divine Star, but there's nothing to see. The guy shouted how dare some lowly fool how look down on him. The guy said okay. Since he wanted to, he would show him the real power. Then he shouted an explosive fire flower. Arthur turned away sharply as the heat reached him. His life points seemed to be decreasing little by little. Apparently he was attacking at his limit. It seems to be some kind of berserk mode skill. The guy immediately shouted to Coco to protect the others well. People didn't understand what was going on. Was that a skill too? Arthur shouted that it looked like it was time to test the stamina of the first holy throne once. The director summoned Zhang Song to him. He ordered him to take control of the media immediately. The world's public must not be allowed to know what happened today. The guy thought it would be a little tricky. After all, once materials are uploaded to the internet, it's almost impossible to fix anything. The guy replied that at least he would make sure that the director's death scene wasn't leaked to the public. Suk replied that he wasn't dead at all. He just unlogged to get some rest. But why is the guy looking at him like he's dead? He's looking at a man who's alive and well. So why is he acting like the man is dead? Does he have to put up with this kind of attitude because of a piece of shit like Ramtadian? How dare he say something like that to him? Have him order the office to be put in order. The guy replied that he would arrange everything now. Then he added that while society is in a great delusion, vested interests overlook too many uncompensated units. Everyone has slowly started to forget that the world works because of top users like him. In a few decades, this world will be reorganized, so that never again will there be someone who can rise up unexpectedly, as has happened today. He spoke of how the era of the strong caring for the weak would end in his generation. Arthur asked how they would be on the spot in no time. Then he said how lucky he was to have Coco. The guy said he's watching. Is he in a great mood because it's just the two of them? Is it because it's easier to carry one person on your back than three? Coco thought about the fact that the fire scorched his wings, and the man who released the flames was very strong. If the blow had hit him, it would have been very painful. Without a single skill, the master will kill anyone who falls under his hot hand. Henceforth, he decided to become a very obedient bird. While in the lair of the heavenly devil, Serdian brought the Lord a report on the conduct of business. The boy asked a survival strategy to survive a cold winter. The elder replied that it was. The winters in their region are very harsh compared to other places. To survive the winter, they will need their own warm clothes and the presence of a stove in each house. The current population of Heavenly Devil Village is around 800 people. It was estimated that they would need 800 million gold coins. Arthur was curious to know how they had survived the winters before his arrival. After all, that's 800 million gold coins. The amount of money Johann and his organization alone has dedicated to him is 4 billion. So investing 800 million isn't that much of a problem. The guy said that this business report made for the welfare and revival of the Heavenly Devil. Let him not worry about the sum of money and use it as needed. Serdian was not confused and asked then could they procure more expensive and better quality items? In that case, the total amount would be 1,400 million gold coins. Arthur said so be it. The elder asked if it was true. Then he would tell everyone of their ruler's generosity. The guy thought all was well. He had finally reached level 50. And now that the restriction on hunting grounds was lifted, he would have the opportunity to earn a lot more. Rexer asked the guy first asked him to meet. How unexpected. Johann replied finally he showed up. Like he said, in normal times the guy would never have offered to meet him first, but now the situation was a bit different. He replied that there's no arguing about it. The guy came to talk about absolutes. Johann said that he felt the energy of his mind techniques conquering the heavens. Didn't he meet the minimum requirements to become their absolute ruler? The boy replied that you could say that he did, but as he himself knows, the three elder is not going to serve a lord who is weaker than he is. Rexer said that Johann had worked so hard to create Sarmak. He also traveled a thorny path to create the Black Flowers. But what if the truth lord who will lead the Black Flower House is weaker than him? That will never happen. Johann asked the third elder could really overpower him? He is now, after all. Before the boy could finish speaking, Rexer asked shackled by a few inhibitions? Of course, he knows about it too. The elder is on standby for now, but gradually his patience is coming to an end, and other elders who have not yet joined them feel the same way. They cannot wait forever. Johann replied that his thoughts on the matter were different from his. The guy said that he seems to know about their lord being restrained by inhibitions, but is he aware that he's even stronger this time around? Now he could well fight the elders face to face, without any equipment, for he was no longer weak. Now he is the only person who can bring things from the outside world there. The third elder replied that he recognized this argument. Johann added that the overseer had said that this time he would provide the residents with winter clothes and tools. Rexer replied that no matter how you look at it, wasn't it all done with money from the Sarmak organization? The guy replied that he voluntarily gave the Sarmak funds to the ruler, and he never wastes money. All the expenses and affairs of the ruler are related only to the Heavenly Devil. He is glad, however, that he was able to contribute to his limitless potential, so let him wait a little longer. Their ruler has a definite plan. He will definitely go to that place to get more military funds. Seiya told the guy that you can go crazy. It seems they can now create monsters of all tastes and colors. Soon there would be no need for dungeons or hunting grounds. But it looks like they really have a lot of money. Isn't it crazy that so many red and black stones were used for something like this? Afterward, she said her brother had some kind of lame reaction. He smashed the first throne to smithereens, but no one remembers that anymore. Arthur replied to make his sister think twice. Would that goon be happy to make absolute evil too well known? Besides, now you'd have to pretend to be someone who makes monsters himself. Let the girl stop being too bold. If she manages to get in touch with the other holy thrones, that would be a good thing, too. Come to think of it, the monster generator has a profit margin of like 30%. If the heavenly devil had something like that, thinks the village would be able to revitalize the ecosystem while remaining self-sufficient. Seiya replied that anyway, what's his next goal? The guy replied that it was a river flowing through the sky. There really is nothing wrong with the red stones. That's why the Divine Star monopolizes those lands for research purposes and keeps a tight grip on them. Exclusive high-level hunting grounds on the continent of Centennia, a river flowing through the sky. Due to some monsters, many Alliance members go there to ensure a steady supply of red stones. So the guy decided to take Zeta, a sixth elder specializing in extensive magic, with him. Having made a firm decision when he awakened a true mind technique that conquers the heavens, he doesn't intend to boast that he is an absolute evil, but at the same time, he doesn't intend to hide it. Arthur motioned for Zeta to stay near him, activating the visibility cloak. He whispered to the boys, asking if everything was all right. Rafendel told the elder that his undead state would soon be removed. Even if he stopped being undead, he would still be allowed to continue walking with him, right? After the strongest lightning strike, Rafendel said he felt incredibly strong. The energy was overflowing. He told the elder that compared to last time, the boy had become much stronger. The stats alone had already increased by more than 20 units. Absolute necromancer abilities have evolved to the next level thanks to the Celtic Legacy reward, which applies not only to monsters, but also to players. The girls suggested traveling in groups of 2. As soon as she and Rafendel reached their destination using the portal, Siesong would go next. That a full house was arriving. They asked who the crazy bastards were. Then they realized they looked too familiar. It was dark energy and no objects in company with a giant eagle. The man ordered everyone to prepare for battle, rather let it be with the main office. Then they were ordered to keep their distance, saying let the guy use the portal. Let him approach the portal in peace. Arthur didn't understand why they were acting like this. Ruffendal replied that they seemed to have realized his power. The boy thought, could it be because of that video? At this rate, both Seiya and Saesung will reach their destination without any problems. Since that guy is the director of the Big Divine Star Alliance, it means that the Alliance members should be aware of what happened. As far as he could remember, at first all players could use the portals without any restrictions. But at some point the big alliances announced that they were taking them under their control. Is it right that they are operating portals that have existed naturally since Olympus appeared? The guy asked what other orders had come from management. Arthur asked, no one is there? Then there was no point in going far away, and we could just wait for the others there. The guy thought it looked like he hadn't noticed them until now. He ordered everyone to get ready. He shouted that it was time to launch a full-scale attack. Arthur replied that it was fine. Rafendel has a defense spell in his arsenal, right? First, have them block the attack, and he would provide a buff for it. Although the guy had expected something like this, it turned out to be more obvious than anything. Arthur asked Rafendel if he could stand. He replied that he could, but that his range was too wide for him to block all by himself. I've ordered you to stop the attack and keep everyone on guard. Tell them to hold their position. The guy said it was more boring than he thought it would be. After all, the Sela that killed the one sitting on the throne wasn't as grandiose. They must remember that anyone who dares point their sword in the direction of their alliance will face such an outcome. Seiya asked Arthur what's going on. Is she still not allowed to manifest? The guy answered that yes, let her stay where she is. He will send her a message later. He said it was extremely dangerous. Is she okay? Have her wait for him there with Coco. The boy blocks their attacks point when the fight subsides. Let him go up with Coco to the clouds. The girl replied that thanks to her uncle, she can't do anything. So this time she'll fight alongside him. The man yelled, you bastards, jump down. they didn't seem to have been seriously damaged. Do they really stand on their own 2 feet after being hit like that? When it comes to such powerful defensive skills, he said that the enemy's defense is above reproach. But it seems they can only brag about their defenses like Rafindle. The attack power, on the other hand, doesn't seem to be anything special. He'll take his place in the vanguard and play the role of a tank. Arthur asked if Rafindle was ready to record what was going on. There are almost 70 people there, and everyone is high level, so have them collect all the dropped items. The boy shouted that he seemed to be a great martial artist, but he couldn't beat them. Arthur ordered the entire fight to be filmed from that point on. The woodcutter shouted that they had both items and men in abundance. He couldn't win. Let the guy surrender. The man has no idea what brought him there. But before it's too late, let him repent of his sins and apologize to Director Musuk. Then they won't give him the death penalty. The guy asked for a death sentence? What had he done that was so wrong? The woodcutter replied that his sin was that he had dared to trespass on their Union territory. The crime of making a mess in a place where ordinary people make a living. This is clearly an act of infiltration and an insult to the pride of a divine star. The grounds for signing the death warrant are already plentiful. Arthur asked the big Union, is that land their property? Did they make that map? By what right dare they consider his appearance there a crime? Who are they to control the teleporter and hunting grounds and get money from the players for their use? The guy killed Musuk because he attacked him first. But look, he doesn't feel bad about it at all? Really? What's the point of having a discussion with people like them? Seosung ordered her dead soldiers to get up. Arthur ordered them to tell the head of the alliance to report there because he was going to rip their heads off. Monopolizing teleport and hunting grounds? A guy would destroy a world like that. These knuckleheads can attack. The lumberjack shouted to everyone to prepare to attack. As strong as he is, he has almost no items. Although he uses defense magic or something like that, he would easily be able to resist his tricks as well. The man didn't immediately realize when he had managed to get there. Arthur asked, thinking of relying entirely on healing spells and potions? The guy looks he's very weak since he died from a single base hit by someone who doesn't carry a weapon. His warriors kill the rest. After all, the lumberjack director is able to fulfill the role of a tank by stepping in alone against a level 80 monster. He simply couldn't die from a basic Chowside strike without items. The guy said the enemy is only getting bigger. Maybe they should retreat. He asked what kind of nonsense they were talking about. Were they going to write a letter of resignation? And they didn't realize that he was at one with a rookie necromancer who had recently become a hot topic of discussion in the community. But how is it even possible to control so many undead at once? The man shouted that the enemy necromancer must have already used up all his mana reserves. It was a ploy of the enemy to overwhelm them with lightning in numbers. Arthur asked her to call all the Death Knights back and let her stand aside. The girl replied that it was fine, so let her uncle be careful. The system said that when the skill is used, the effect of true mind techniques that conquer the heavens is applied. The guy thought that since he had reached level 50, he could try to use that skill in action. Arthur asked would they really carry as they say? The skill 100 lightning strikes has been changed to true 100 lightning strikes. The guy ordered the tanks to block his attack. The guys replied that they would provide full protection. Suddenly, they realized that they all died in one blow. Arthur motioned for the girl to order the Death Knights to begin the offensive again. The boy seemed to have killed more targets than he'd intended. At the Divine Stars directors meeting, a man yelled out, "What kind of scandalous situation is this? Was it that Ramtadian's fault again? Isn't it absurd that no one is able to stop his destructive activities? What's more, this video has gone viral." The man replied that they would settle the issue with the community as soon as possible. Seosung ordered her dead soldiers to get up. The boy thought they were trying to make him undead after death. Looking at them, the girl said that if they stopped resisting, she would feel much better. After the strike, the system said that a set of red stones had been received. The guy realized that now the items would fall out even if he grabbed the target. Arthur used absolute evil glasses because it was said to remove national elements. And here's the catch. The guy had no idea that his luck would eventually be spared from the minuscule value. Isn't that the truest jackpot? He wondered if these points could be invested in other characteristics as well. Rafindle told the older man that he should look over there to the side. Then he replied that it was a distinguished party. He told me that there are 3 heads of a small union under the divine star. They told the guy to quietly surrender and submit to justice. Then he could avoid the death penalty. Rafindle told the elder that it seems the bastards from the divine star are determined. Arthur asked if that trio was that strong. The guy told me that on the left is Curdle, who has made a name for himself as a full How. He's known as a stealthy close combat martial arts class. The one on the right is called an assassin, and this guy is also known as a hidden class affiliated with blades. And lastly, that guy named Lupin who specializes in defense. Rafindle uses defense magic all the time too. Maybe that guy was his role model? They shouted for Ramtadian to listen carefully. Lupin shouted that if the boy would quietly surrender and submit to justice, he could avoid the death penalty. Or does he want something else? Arthur asked if he wanted anything. He replied that he didn't want anything from them. The boy realized that they seemed to be determined. Lupin shouted that they would give him time to think. However, the guys can't stand idle either, so they will start attacking. Lupin realized that neither priests nor healers had come with them. For them to negotiate was a demonstration of their own power. I guess the Grand Alliance still underestimates him. Curdle shouted that he wouldn't be lenient just because he didn't have the items. Arthur replied that he was faster than the boy thought. At that moment, Curdle realized that the boy had stopped his fist with his bare hands. After the blow, Arthur said that although he was fast, he wasn't particularly impressed. Lupin thought it was possible to go crazy, sent Curdle flying with a base fist. That's when he realized the guy was a lot stronger than the report said. Nevertheless, they are really strong guys. After all, the opponent didn't get knocked unconscious by his base hit. He asked Rafindle to step aside and take a video, then upload it online. Lupin said in a whisper that they realized the boy was strong, but offered to negotiate. Arthur replied that he had said he wouldn't do it. He shouted that if the boy agreed to die by their hand, they would give him the right to hunt in the area. He shouted that if the guy agreed to die by their hand, they would give him the right to hunt in the area. If the guy becomes a member of Divine Star, he will be free to use all the hunting grounds and portals belonging to the Alliance. He promises that he will have an annual salary of 100 million if the guy signs an official contract. Arthur replied that this is nonsense, because they have monopolized these hunting grounds at their discretion. The guy was very clear about destroying their whole monopoly system. Did they think he really wanted those terms? 100 million annual salary? If Arthur was an ordinary player, would they have given him such conditions? After all, even now low-level players are hanging around under his feet like dogs just for hunting grounds and warp usage. And even in the middle of negotiations, send him whispers asking him to let them kill themselves? They realized at that point that the negotiations had broken down. Attacking, the guy yelled that he wouldn't act as cheesy and low as they did. He used a true 100 lightning strikes. The assassin couldn't believe it. He didn't expect the tunic to lose. In such a situation, the only answer is to attack the others, not the Ramtadian. He realized that necromancer accompanied by the undead, with that level of ability, he must be an important strategic partner of Ramtadian. If it's a necromancer, his combat power should be extremely weak. This is the best time before everyone loses sight of him. As soon as he thought that if he took him hostage, he was immediately attacked by a powerful force, a being whose presence even he could not detect. The others asked Mr. Lupin what to do now. He couldn't believe his eyes. The assassin had been killed in a flash. What organization was he from? What's an assassin of this caliber doing there? They didn't understand why the head of Sarmak was there. He had never shown himself before that day. They didn't understand what kind of relationship he might have with that Chaosite. Zeta shouted that anyone blocking the Lord's path would be killed. May they rest in peace. Arthur realized that he hadn't even given them any orders. Johann apologized for interfering without his permission. Arthur replied that it was all right, and as a result the murderer was captured. Lupin whispered that he dared to make a mistake about the boy. Please give him another chance to negotiate. He said his eyes were dark, so the guy couldn't see his value. How could he even offer him a paltry 100 million won? They are willing to recruit him on the best possible terms. He will receive active support directly from the big Union Divine Star. Arthur shouted that he'd said he didn't need any of this. Lupin wondered if he was going to kill him again with a base hit. Rafindle shouted that the Divine Star bastards had many items. He needs to harvest the entire crop. Xiesong asked those two are his subordinates. Will they all hunt together now? Arthur replied that he thought it was the right thing to do, because red stones often fall out there. Rufendel told the elder that he had collected everything. They had hit the jackpot today. Let him check the catch and make sure he's collected everything, so that the older man doesn't have to bend over. Arthur replied that he would see how much Rufendel had collected. He looked inside and ordered Coco to go downstairs quickly. Rufendel and Se-sung told them to climb on Coco's back and go as high into the sky as possible, and Zeta and Johann to prepare for battle. The boys asked the Lord what was wrong. Arthur replied that he didn't know either, but that something was clearly coming. The system said that it is confirmed. Absolute evil has descended on that land. The energy of absolute evil and the energy of the monster field corresponds to special conditions. As it turned out, an unexpected quest called Boss Monster Attack was created. Looking at them, the guy said the size was impressive. Se-sung said that if Uncle was going to defeat them, he should give the bodies to her. Arthur said okay. Johann said that those monsters were so strong that even he and Zeta would have a hard time fighting them. It was too dangerous for him to fight them at the moment because of the restrictions. Arthur replied that no, he would defeat them right now. Don't the boys believe in his strength? Johann replied that it's not that. The guy said that then they should just watch. He will defeat every single one of them. Judging from the notice, those bosses appeared in response to the energy of absolute evil. In other words, we are talking about monsters that appeared after meeting certain conditions. And since they are monsters related to the event, all he has to do is fight them. The system said that there is a powerful surge of true mind energy conquering the heavens. The energy of absolute evil reveals a synergistic effect. The guy thought that as expected, if they were ordinary bosses, they would have attacked long ago, but they couldn't do anything because they were completely paralyzed by the energy of absolute evil. Those creatures he could overpower. Let the guys watch carefully. After that, Arthur used a true 100 lightning blows. The system said that since they are monsters formed under certain conditions, absolute evil has a special compatibility with them. Zeta shouted that she was still in indescribable rapture at how the Overlord had lightning quickly destroyed those insolent Union members. Johann replied that he had not expected the Lord to show such rapid growth, as expected of their absolute ruler. The system said that as a result of the hidden part, the right to receive the hidden skill was confirmed. The hidden title was created. It's just like the guy thought. He asked the boys if they'd seen it. That's why the Overlord is called their absolute ruler. Isn't this event perfect for the debut of absolute evil? Young-hoon said that this was the end of today's report about the full how player invading the river flowing through the sky. The man asked what was the result of the level check. The guy replied that the level 50 was confirmed. He said that their alliance's reputation had plummeted, and they all knew it. In addition, the heads of the small alliance had also been defeated. They couldn't even put up a proper resistance to him. The men apologized. They said they had no excuse. The man said that no, he didn't start this conversation because they owed him an apology. It's just that the enemy was stronger than they had anticipated. However, the bitterness of regret is still there. He said none of this would have happened if they had figured out their opponent's abilities beforehand and provided negotiating terms that matched them. A certain amount of full how is completely out of line with conventional norms. Demonstration of such power at a paltry 50th level. Active use of the media. Even the Justice Alliance of America has sprung into action after hearing this news. It must have enough strategic value to use it. But their Divine Star Alliance had officially passed a lifetime death sentence. No matter how great its strategic value and how wide the room for negotiation. After all, he's a full how player who goes against society. Plus, as it turns out today, there are a few people who are helping him. The director said that besides looking at his past actions, the possibility of him being totally evil cannot be ruled out. In some sense, this hypothesis looks very convincing. If we talk about absolute evil, its main goal is to plunge society into chaos. Looking at the situation with this position, we can say that that player completely fits that description. The director is confident that in his generation, people like them can create a beautiful world that does not require sacrifice. So he will be declared the ultimate evil. A man will take complete control of the management of public opinion. Of course, they could secretly recruit him into their ranks. After all, the Divine Star Alliance cares about gifted people, so their doors are always open to those who are not lacking in talent. But before they reconcile with him, they must first corner him. For all his immense power, he is, after all, they need to make it clear that he can never handle the majority alone. For the sake of a world where the elite rule over the common people, the guy shouted that this was the finishing touch. The system immediately said that the hunt for the boss monster, the two-headed chimera, was successful. He thought that even though they were huge, the guy had defeated them by an overwhelming advantage. He thought that even though they were huge, the guy had beaten them by an overwhelming margin. Arthur asked if there was a reward for each boss monster. He would like the red stones to be given out. The system said the guy got 3 black stones. Arthur asked 3 black stones. Is he sure he is awake? A black stone. Among the existing monster stones, this is a monster stone of the highest quality. Some 200 years after the commissioning of Olympus, in its entire 10-year history, black stone has only appeared 3 times so far. And the cost of a black stone with this level of rarity is a very huge value. Johann said that the Lord seemed to glow with happiness. Zeta replied that she felt the same way. He had shown his talents to the full today. He said he didn't think that was the main reason. Then he said he thought they had visitors. It was the director of the Big Blue Heart Union and the president of the Justice Union named Captain. The man said that luckily they weren't too late. Once behind them, Johann ordered them to stand still. Didn't they realize when he was behind them? Did the boy ask the Lord what he should do with them? Arthur thought, what about the Justice Alliance of America? And the president himself showed up. He asked Johann to leave them alone. The guy yelled that they'd better not move if life was precious. Then he asked what they wanted to tell him. The union director, Blue Heart, replied that their union wishes to recruit him into their ranks. They are offering a contract with a down payment and an annual salary of 300 million each, plus a set of unique items. They'll also give them hunting rights and a warp map of Union-controlled territory. Those are very good terms, aren't they? He asked. The man said he was there to recruit him too. Under the terms of their contract, the down payment would be 300 million and the annual salary 500 million. Would the guy want to lead by joining forces with them? No matter how strong he was, it would be difficult for them to survive without the protection of a large union. After all, they would then be unable to use all the trading facilities in Korea. Arthur replied that so be it, because frankly, he didn't care. Because he had his own ways of getting things and getting rid of them. Using a true 100 lightning-fast strikes, he dealt with a large number of monsters. The guy said that some measly 500 million. She realized that his abilities were far more amazing than the video showed. Arthur said he was able to make money right now without moving. These are not conditions he'd be crazy about. The principal and the president said something was wrong. Apparently, there was a misunderstanding. The captain offers him an annual salary of $500 million. Arthur thought how embarrassing. He was sure it was 500 million won. Did they really use that unit of account? The girl replied that no, she meant out. Arthur wasn't mistaken, so the captain was a little overzealous. Anyway, one side sent the director and offered 300 million won. On the other side, the president himself showed up there and offered $500 million. The president replied that one way or another, he thinks it would be hard for him to give an answer right now. Of course, he doesn't have to accept their call of love. If he ever intends to sign with someone, he'd like at least a firm word on it. For a player at that level, 300 million won is not really an offer, but a belittlement. The president said they fully respect his choice, but if he gives them another chance, he can safely say that the Justice Alliance is determined to seize the opportunity. Arthur replied that it was fine. When he decided to sign a contract with someone, he would put the Justice Alliance first. The director thought about the fact that he was offering $500 million. She had heard that the Justice Alliance had enormous capital, but she hadn't expected it to be that huge. Arthur asked what she was doing. If she has nothing else to say, then please let her go back. Then he asked her if she had anything to say. The girl answered that she did not, and wished him to make a good choice. She immediately starts telling someone he's an arrogant bastard. She doesn't know. Maybe she should show him he can't do anything on his own. The guy asked if he was right. Didn't he? That's the real scum of the earth. Then asked what she was going to do, calling him a crazy bastard. He thought that in addition to the divine star, the guy had decided to make the Union his enemy too. Eve has no idea what his selfish motives are, but so far the situation itself is working out in their favor. If only he could get that bag back. Arthur wondered how he should use the black stone to spread more rumors. At that moment the boy's phone rang. When he picked up the phone, he realized it was Siesong. but he couldn't remember when he had given her his phone number. The girl asked him if he was busy. She told him she was with his sister, and then asked if he wanted to join them.